Hey everyone! I'm so excited you guys are joining me and some incredible special guests today to talk about Black Widow. Full warning, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, come back and watch us later. It's going to live here on YouTube. I see Ted and I see a lot of people in the comments, Jay and Daniel. Hey guys, hey guys, hey guys. All right, and of course, Ronnie's here. Yeah, hey. All right, so I'm going to bring everyone in a little bit one by one because we have a lot of people. Thought it might be a little overwhelming to have everybody on here together at once. So first up, we're going to pull in my good friend, Amanda. Amanda, what's up?
Hey, happy to be here and talk Black Widow with all you wonderful people. I'm excited.
It's so exciting. All right, why don't you go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can always find me over at AMX NDay Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. My YouTube is Candid Cinema. I have my Black Widow review up there, and I'm going to be working on my Loki reviews. And you can check out my website, candidxcinema.com.
Awesome. And she's got fantastic content, of course, so you definitely want to check it out. And next up, we have someone whose show I've been on. Haven't had him yet. We got Elliot at Movie Files. What's going on?
I'm going to try to do my best Russian accent as Ren suggested. Now what's going on? How we doing?
Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, find me on YouTube, Movie Files, talking MCU, Marvel, Star Wars, TV shows, all that fun stuff. We have live discussions about those shows, so I'm really excited to be here talking some Black Widow with you all.
Well, we are excited to have you. And next up, I got James. You guys probably know James if you've been around the channel for a while. He's been here. So exciting to have you on again. I feel like I haven't seen you forever.
I know, it's been a minute, but I'm really happy that I get a chance to join you all because this movie I was so surprisingly in love with, and I have 218 million reasons why it's good.
218 million. We'll just be here for the next week. It's fine. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Of course, you can find me just by searching on YouTube. Or actually Real James. It's Real James is on social media. REEL James. We talk movies, TV, Avatar, Legend of Korra, The Dragon Prince, all that good stuff each and every day. So I'm excited to hopefully see you guys in the comments soon.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's amazing, again, at what he does, as is everyone who is here, especially this guy right here. We got Ren Geekness is here. Hey!
Hello!
He's in a new
Thank you for having me.
He goes
yes,
all over the place.
I am back in Mother Russia to protect the secrets of the Red Room.
He's lying. That's not where he is. But
No.
Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you, Ren?
You guys can find me on Instagram at RenVieira93. It's more of a personal account, but I always let you know what I'm watching, when I'm watching it, and on Letterboxd, Twitter, YouTube, at Ren Geekness, covering all kinds of geek stuff, as you can judge from the background, and being on live discussions with awesome people such as I am today.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thanks, Ren. You know what? I have a question. Like, do you ever bring anything from your set back and forth with you, or you just leave your two sets?
Good question.
I'm curious.
I sometimes bring back over to London some graphic novels, maybe a book, maybe some Blu-rays that I'm like, I want to watch this, and I have the Blu-ray best quality possible physical media. Hell yeah. And so I sometimes bring it back with me.
Okay, I was curious because I'm like, you got two pretty sweet sets going on each place. So
Yeah. I'm very lucky in that way.
Yes. And next up, we got Leo's here. Again, if you guys have been here before, you probably know Leo. But Leo, why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you?
What's going on, guys? So if you're on YouTube, you can find me over at youtube.com/Geekly Goods. Come on over. We talk the latest movies, MCU, anime, TV. Guys, we explore many different corners of the Geekverse on my channel. So come on by and let's get loud in the comments and talk about the latest, y'all. So that's me on YouTube. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Leo Rydell. Talk a lot about food and movies. Do a little bit more foodie over there, a little bit too. And then you can find me on Instagram at leo.rydell and on TikTok the same at leo.rydell. Guys, I'm so excited to talk Black Widow, and I'm so excited to talk Black Widow with all these amazing content creators. I'm excited. Let's get loud in the comments, y'all. Let's talk about it.
Speaking of your TikTok, his TikTok is amazing. I have said this before, I hate TikTok. I don't go to TikTok. I literally just go look at Leo's TikTok.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
It's true. And I don't like TikTok. Those of you who know, I've had a lot of people ask me, do you use your TikTok? No. I try. I hate it. I can't figure it out.
It's an acquired taste.
It is. Now, the next person up, I don't know if she has a TikTok. Andrea, you got a TikTok?
I do not, because I'm about as inept as you are with TikTok, and all my friends use it, and I'm like, I really should learn how to use it. Like, I know how to use it, but I could really try to use it, and I'm so lazy, and I only have so much energy in a day, and I cannot devote that to making a TikTok. Except when I'm on vacation, and my friends are like, let's do funny cosplay things, then, like, at a con or something, then I do it.
Well, because I was going to say, I feel like cosplays really would be good for TikTok.
It's so many people use it for cosplay, and like I should, especially because I think it helps your engagement a lot. But I'm like, I'm old and I just can't be bothered to find the energy. I need enough energy to like get myself into a cosplay, like much less film in. So,
well, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and what you do?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at _A Towers. I'm on Instagram at _Andrea Towers, all one word. And I write, I do entertainment journalism around the web. Most notably, you can find me on Nerdist and Entertainment Weekly. I'm just where I'm freelancing right now. And I am so excited to join this chat. I could probably go on and on and on about how much this movie means to me and how excited I've been for so many years. So being able to come on and talk with all of you is just like the best way to spend my Sunday.
And when she says most notably, she also means most notably her Black Widow review is at mamasgeeky.com.
I did. I should have mentioned that.
That's the most notable.
Can I be honest? Andrew, you got me more excited for Black Widow before I sat down to watch it. So I'm like, yo, you're getting me so hyped for this film. So thank you for adding to that excitement. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I hope I say this all the time because I feel like I have to make a disclaimer for myself, even though I'm trying to stop apologizing for yourself or whatever. But I feel like I have to keep saying, like, I hope I'm getting people excited because I loved it. And like, if I really had like a lot of criticism for it, I would be totally honest and be like, it was good, bud. So I'm like, so I try to get other people hyped. And when everyone's like, I'm really hyped because you're hyped, like, well, I hope you guys are also really hyped because I'm really trying. Like, it's a really good movie and you should be excited for it. So I'm glad you felt that because,
of course.
I'm excited to get into all your, I know you have like a million thoughts. Like just in chat, we've talked a little and I'm like, I feel like we need to save this all for the live because it's going to be amazing. And we got one last guest today. Like I said, we have a very stacked house. We have Chris from Tait's Take. What's going on?
Hold on. Let me try to do like Elliot.
Okay.
It's vodka. What's up?
That's great.
Yeah. I can't have any more vodka. The weekend's been crazy, but I'm here. I'm Chris Tait. What I have to talk about my channel and all that? What I got?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, let's do it. My name is. Hold on. Let me get solo. My name is Chris Tait. I have Tait's Take, my YouTube channel. I've been doing it for about a year and a half now. Super excited to be on this panel. I know most everyone on this channel and I follow all your stuff and just super excited to be a part of this discussion for a movie that is making some waves. So let's get this party started.
Yeah, listen, I'm so excited because like we just got numbers. We just got the numbers today. That is done 80 million in the theaters and then 60 million on Disney Plus. That's insane.
Oh, so awesome.
I was not expecting that. I honestly wasn't expecting that number for Disney Plus. I mean, I'm excited. I'm part of it. I bought it.
We all contributed to it.
Yes, exactly. I know my husband was like, do we have to buy it? Like you watched the screener 100 times and then we saw it in theaters. I was like, yeah, we do. Okay. And then the best was that my 8-year-old was like, do we have Black Widow yet? I was like, see, thank you. See, she
Immediate validation.
Right, exactly. But thank you guys all for taking the time today to chat with us. This is so awesome. So why don't we start off real quick with everyone's like overall thoughts just on the movie in general. And we can start with Chris since he's next to me.
Yes, my overall thoughts. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. And I didn't get to see it, like from a screener. I saw it on Thursday night, just past like opening night here in New York City. And, the reviews were, I didn't watch a lot of reviews. I just, got a little sentiment, you click in and get a little, and then you get out. I was dabbling in a lot of reviews and then I talked about it on E's channel. But Griff gave me a little hope because he made the video essay and he said, you got to give it a chance. And I was like, and I got out of it and I was like, it's hilarious. Action's dope. I got emotional. I talked about it. I don't have emotions, so they just unlocked some shit that I didn't even have. So yeah, my overall thoughts, great film. I was pleasantly surprised.
And you got to see it in the theater, right?
in the theater, IMAX, biggest IMAX in the nation. It was excellent.
That's awesome. Now, Amanda, what did you think? I know you didn't get to see it in the theater yet.
Yet. I'm going. In IMAX, beautiful big screen. I'm gonna do it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. There are some issues with it that I had, but it was a lot of fun. It was funny. Again, it was emotional. There was a great balance between everything, and yeah, it was pretty solid. Not my favorite, but it was still pretty good addition to the MCU.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think I'm more in line with you, although the more I watch it, I'll say the more I watch it, the more I love it. Let's put it that way. Every time I watch it, I like find more and more things I love about it. And I kind of like get over the things there's one thing I have not gotten over, and I don't think I ever will, and we'll get there eventually. But Ren, what were your overall thoughts? And did you see it in theaters? You did, right?
I did. Wednesday the 7th, I went to a theater, the first screening nationally speaking. I went to see it, and I really enjoyed it. And from the first time that I saw it, I felt very much like you and Manda, like, I like this, didn't quite love it. Some issues I really wish weren't there. But then as I tried to remember the movie to then review it, it got better in my memory. Friday, I got it on Disney Plus, watched it again. It got the things that I liked already were enhanced. The issues were still there, and I didn't feel about them as strongly. In fact, one of them kind of even got better. So I'll leave that for when we get to it.
And how about you, James? Did you get to see it in theaters or at home?
Yeah, so I got a chance to see it in theaters. It was the biggest screen at the theater we saw it at. Unfortunately, it wasn't IMAX, but it still felt pretty darn big. And I came in very mixed. I thought, okay, I'm excited for what it could be, but I'm upset we're getting it when we did. I wanted this years ago. But after that opening title sequence where it felt very raw and emotional and very grounded, I think it's the most grounded MCU film we've gotten since Winter Soldier anyway. I was surprisingly in love with this movie, and I left smiling and thinking this is probably the best way to welcome back theaters.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And Elliot, how about you? Did you see it in theaters?
Yeah, I did get to see it in theaters. This the one time there was a press screen out here in St. Louis, so I've only seen it once. So I do plan on checking it out again and seeing if it gets better for me. Because I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of middle of the road for me as far as the film goes. As far as MCU as well, of course, MCU formulaic as far as like their Teflon. You know, we get all the stuff that we've come to love with the films, but I feel like I've seen this film before. And James just touched on it. Winter Soldier has a lot of Winter Soldier story beats and particular characters that feel like carbon copies of Winter Soldier, which makes sense. You know, Natasha was in that film, but it felt like I've seen it before. And like James has actually mentioned as well, it's a little bit too late in regards to where the timeline of this film takes place. It kind of is convenient that there are no Avengers around because obviously after the events of Civil War, but I don't know. It just didn't feel like a good send-off for me for Natasha, more so of a setup for another Black Widow. But, you know, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it definitely did feel like a setup. That's basically what it was there to do. I do wish we had gotten it. I wish we had gotten it after Civil War. But if not then, to get it when it was supposed to come out. I know why they pushed it, but it's still, I feel like it did a disservice a little bit at coming after like things like WandaVision have come out. What did you think overall, Leo? And you got to see it in theaters as well. You watched it at home and theaters, right? Oh.
So I came into this movie not anticipating it at all. I kept forgetting that it was coming out. Look, love MCU, love it, but I was just like, look, it's too late. Really, we're backing up all this way when it should have came out in Civil War. I was championing it for it to come out in Captain Marvel's place instead of Captain Marvel, but we have it. Man, y'all, when that MCU theme started up, the hype was absolutely real. I could not believe being back in the setting of the movie MCU because we've had WandaVision, we've had Falcon and Winter Soldier in the middle of Loki, but this was just such a treat, guys. The espionage, the spy thrillerish themes, the hand-to-hand combat, especially in the first about 20 minutes of the movie. But I had some problems in the middle, a little bit, some shakeups in the middle and towards the end, but still. Overall, I thought it was a cool send-off for Natasha. Thought it was a great way to introduce Yelena. And I had a fun time. I had me a good time. And guys, nothing beats watching this in the cinemas, in Dolby Cinema. Getting that surround sound and that big, large screen was absolutely fantastic. A treat.
Yeah, I have to agree because I watched it at home like 5 or 6 times, honestly, before going to see it in the theater. And then that was like just such a difference. So this one you really should, if you can and you feel safe. I know poor Amanda can't go yet, but soon. See it in theaters. Now, Andrea, I want to know your overall thoughts, but also why don't you let everyone know about your first time seeing it? Because that's really, really cool. And some people might have even seen her in a little clip in a Marvel, like, talk about it, because it's amazing.
So, my first time seeing it was actually a press screening 2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks like before that Monday. And then, but what I count as like my first real time seeing it was the New York fan event premiere, where I went with a bunch of my friends, and we all got into cosplay, and we did the red carpet, and we got to meet David Harbour, and I got to see the movie with like these people that have basically been a huge part of my life, like through this character. And it was just, I cried like 16 times, like because of the movie and then because of that. So it was a really, really, really cool experience. And I had told like a lot of people that for some reason I was having like this weird anxiety about like the first kind of like my first experience seeing this film. Like, what do I want my first experience seeing this film to be? Because it was going to be so different than what I had originally thought it was going to be like a year ago. And it kind of ended up being better than I could have imagined, just like having the experience seeing this movie the way I wanted to see it in a theater with all my friends, with like a whole big Marvel premiere thing. And it was just awesome.
Yeah. And your pictures like from that night are just amazing.
I have so many pictures I haven't posted on Instagram. I feel like I have to like, apologize to people. I'm sorry for the influx of photos that are going to happen for like the rest of the summer that I have not even shared from that night.
Like, did you forget about Black Widow? I haven't. Here's more pictures. Like,
oh no, you will not forget about it if you follow me on any social media.
That's very, very true. And then we're going to switch over to Hawkeye soon, which is going to be really fun.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to that way at the end. But Andrea and I share a love of Hawkeye, which I'm so happy because nobody loves Hawkeye, I feel like. Like you, me, and Rob Keyes, and that's it. I don't know anybody else.
This is how we, I don't want to say this is how we bonded, because I think we bonded over other things, but the moment you were like, oh, like I really appreciate and love Hawkeye too, it was like, no one else in the world ever. Because I've been on this train for as long as I've been on the Natasha train, so like, you get me.
It's true, I know. I was like, whoa, did we just become best friends? You know? But yeah, so honestly, I think one of my favorite parts of this movie was that first like 15 minutes with young Natasha, young Yelena. I loved that setup of, you know, how they were as children. And I think we get to really dive a little into Natasha there, especially when she goes and immediately protects her. You know, you can't take her, I'll shoot you. So I'm curious, we'll go to Chris. What did you think of that first, 15 minutes or so with when they were young?
Yeah, I thought it was a cool opening. I kind of expected it to be like that. I don't know if the blue hair has any like symbolism to like the past or anything. It was kind of threw me off, but I like the kid. I mean, my favorite part of that opening was Natasha's younger sister Florence, with that character. Like she gets hurts her knee or whatever, and then like the dad comes home and like she doesn't want to say like that she's hurt. She's like, yeah, I hurt my knee, but I come over it. Like it's no big deal. And I'm like, damn, that's some realistic shit like a kid would say. So I thought it was like a cute opening. I was like, this is just building up to like just break everyone's heart, but I get what's happening here, so I was cool with it.
Yeah, I loved it. I actually got to talk to the girl who plays young Yelena, so that'll be up here on Tuesday.
Yeah,
so you guys have
nice.
to check that out. But
Nice.
and then guess what I found out? Fun fact: I guess her sister played Young Hope in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I was like, man,
That's awesome.
Family in the making there. Look at this.
I was like, look at you guys and your family. That's pretty cool. She's like, my sister gave me tips because she played Young Hope. I was like, oh,
So
that's
cute.
impressive. But I love one of my favorite things about that moment. The first 15 minutes there is we're both upside down line, because when it comes around at the end, it had me sobbing. I love that line. And I actually told her, I was like, she hadn't seen the movie yet. So I'm like, watch out. There's a line you say that is so important. And she got so excited. But Amanda, what did you think of young Natasha and young Yelena?
They were great. The performances were really strong. You felt that connection right off the bat, but it just felt different. That opening just felt different for me for some reason, compared to like other MCU films. We were like, it was very, it was very grounded right off the bat, and you knew what we were getting into. And there was like so much heart and love within that, those 15 minutes. So I was like, okay, great. It's gonna be an emotional roller coaster. We're crying like that. I'm like, all right, you're gonna lock that in. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Ren, what did you think about those moments and the setup for the movie?
So I really love the bonding moments, and throughout the course of the film, I love them all the more because they're the best part of the film. But that's the groundwork that is laid there for that emotion to really hit. That really worked. At first, I'm not gonna lie. When 1995 shows up, maybe it's because I was born in 1993, but it feels so recent that I'm like, should be a little before that. But it works. In watching a second time and a third time, it really works. My favorite little bit of that opening is really something that that gets paid off further into the film, and that is when Natasha goes to pick up that book, and Melina says, "No, leave it." But then we find out that she took it anyway. And yeah, I think a little bit of weird stuff, like I said, maybe it's because I'm a kid of the 90s, but the groundwork for what works in this film is all in this opening. So I really, really did enjoy it.
Yeah, you're making me feel really old over here. I was born in 84.
I'm
so
sorry.
To me, I was like, I was like, great. Yeah, okay. 93 you were born. Jeez Louise. It was like 10 years after me. So James, what did you think about this opening?
So I thought this was probably the most unique MCU opening that I've seen in recent memory. I mean, from the cinematography, the direction, I think Kate Shortland's direction here is probably the most magnified. Like everything else does feel a little formulaic, but here it feels like she gets into her bag. And then I love the score. I know Ren and I have been talking about it offline, but Lauren Balfe is just so great. And everything he does in this open, it just lays that groundwork. But for me, I thought it was the most origin type of scene for Natasha. Everything from that point on, I felt like was explained and not shown. But in the first 15 minutes, I'm like, yo, we're really going to get an entire origin story about Natasha. Now, we didn't get that. That's one of the problems. But I still thought it was excellently done. It was so great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And like, honestly, I'd be all for like a young Yelena, like in the Red Room, like let's learn more about her at some point movie. That would be great. But Elliot, what did you think of the opening?
Yeah, no, so to go to your point, that was so awesome to see that backstory from Natasha, seeing her at a young age, seeing that fight that she has. You touch her, I'm going to kill you. All that stuff was just so great to me, and just seeing that foundation of where she has been grown since a little girl to always be on the run, always look over her shoulder. So it really kind of submits that character that we see in the MCU, always being on her toes and being, again, always looking behind her shoulder. So I love that aspect. And I was hoping to get more from that from the film. Like James just said, I would have loved to have not super long, but like a montage of when she's a teenager, when she's in her early 20s, just really getting an idea of where she kind of comes from. But it was only in that, like you just mentioned, the first 15 minutes. But it was a great way to start off the film and really kind of lays the foundation of, again, where she's come from, where her mindset is always, always, always on the go. So I really like that opening.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It's a great setup to show like her character, and like you said, that she's been dealing with this since she was a little kid, and this is what she was raised to be like. Leo, what did you think of the opening?
Really, really had a good time in that opening. It was awesome. Like you guys were saying, it lays a great foundation for the rest of the film. I can agree that there could have been a little bit more, but man, hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit covered like that was absolutely fantastic. Also, yeah, Ren, seeing 1995, I was like, ooh, I'm old, but going back to the direction, I think that it was just so immersive. We got some shots where we could see the world through the kids' eyes and how innocent it looked before we got into what the movie was going to be about. So I thought that was kind of like a nice, cool, quiet moment in the first like 5 minutes. And it did it a lot better than Cruella. Cruella, I would say the child scene maybe drifts a little bit too long, but this was like perfect. And if we would have got a montage of teenagehood and going into young adulthood, that would have been cool. But I think this for me was enough, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I think it was enough for me too, especially just in the context of this movie specifically. I really enjoyed it, and I like that they threw some action in there. I mean, you get like all the cute sisters, but then you're like, oh, now there's this huge like action scene. What's going on? My daughter's crying. Is the dad gonna die? And I'm like, he's not. If you've seen the trailer, you would know that. But like, okay, but it gives you a little bit.
The shade.
I know, right? I'm like, no.
If you've seen the trailer, you'd know that.
Right. I wanted to. But Andrea, what did you think of this opening for Natasha?
I loved it. I mean, so I knew I was gonna like be very emotional throughout this whole film, just as a whole, but I didn't expect to like get really emotional watching that whole flashback scene, which I did. All of a sudden, I'm like, why am I like tearing up watching these sisters? Like, I think because like I subconsciously knew what was happening, but But I mean, everything about that opening was just, for me, it was everything I would have wanted for the character. I mean, I know a lot of people really wanted, you know, or thought like she needed an origin story. I know Scarlett said like we didn't want to make an origin story for this character. It's like, you know, and honestly, you know, what you were saying before about it was enough. It really was enough. Like you got that grounding of this is the person that she was in her childhood at some point before the Red Room, you know, before she, which is what we really only knew about her in the MCU. And it, and like for me, it was enough that it helped round out her character in terms of giving her a foundation. And I think, I mean, this is something we can get into later, but like for me, like the whole story was about her emotional arc, not necessarily this is how she went from, you know, girl in 1995 to Avenger. Right. But then there was, you know, that whole Smells Like Teen Spirit cover opening, and that was so unexpected for me that like I was literally in tears by the end of it. And, like this bodes well for the rest of the movie, just because it hit me so much, and it was so raw and real, and it was unlike, you know, anything that Marvel had done, and it just like it set the tone of the whole movie. Like this is what this movie is going to be, and this is exactly the type of movie that I wanted for Natasha. So that whole opening was just it hit me in a lot of ways, and I loved it.
Yeah, that like the opening credits there with if anybody else wants to talk about it, I loved that. I thought it was amazing. I know Leo and Andrea touched on it a little bit, but it was like emotional when you see them being ripped apart from each other and they're separating everybody. I was like, oh, they're doing this. Like Marvel's taking in. So does anybody else want to talk about that or?
Just a quick question. Did when Melina got shot, did Yelena and Natasha think that she died at that moment? Because again, when they see her later in the film, they were like, "Oh, she's still alive." I didn't know if that was like the moment they thought that their mother, pretend mother, was dead. Was that what we take in that moment?
Yeah, and then I immediately thought she was going to be Taskmaster, and then obviously that isn't what happened. Yes, that was what I thought. I thought too. She was going to be Taskmaster.
You and everyone else.
Well, I may have thought she was
taking her to become Taskmaster right there. That's
right.
Yeah.
I might have thought the same as Leo, but immediately after that, we see a certain name in the credits that was not promoted for this film at all. And I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
I know, you were like, I knew immediately.
What? That was a choice to put that name in the opening credits, which they never do, by the way. And the one time they do it.
I know. I didn't even think of that till you pointed it out. And I had totally not. I think I was too busy looking at all the stuff that was going on.
I think just the other day I thought, oh, we haven't seen Olga Kurylenko in a while. And then, oh, that's a big name to be. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that I don't know if I'm making this up, but I felt like when the reviews were first coming out from like the YouTube space and Twitter, that people were complaining about the opening song, "The Smells Like Teen Spirit." And then when I heard it, I was like, this is fucking fire. Like, I get it. I was like, did I read that wrong? I was like, they're like, the opening is crazy, like the soundtrack, they're these random songs. And I was like, wait, this sounds awesome. Like I need that version.
Good choice.
I can't believe people. I thought it was incredible. So whoever said that is wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
also to have that like played in the background where you're seeing a lot of different very like intense and triggering moments for people. I mean, there's literally a trafficking scene like where they show these women getting trafficked, and then to hear that song, I'm like, yo, this is getting darker than I expected.
Besides Gamora, is this the only child flashback we have? Because I know there's Gamora and Thanos, and then
we have like Hope in Ant-Man and Wasp. Hope playing the
Hope,
Killmonger has
we have
Carol. There's a few.
Two young Carols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this the first time it starts in the film though? Like it starts the film off. I think this might be the first drop us right into childhood.
Yeah.
That's why it works so much.
Well, again, Black Panther. I think so. Didn't Black Panther open up with Killmonger? And
true.
Here, real quick before we go on, Ted is here dropping a few $2, but this one I had to listen. Ted, hi. Yeah. He likes to bring up Armie Hammer in these.
He really would have ate up the scenery there.
That was good.
Oh, Tony Stark. Someone said, was there a kid, Tony Stark, or he was like a teen, right? Was there?
I didn't see Tony, to be honest.
But
he was a kid.
Was that how Civil War started?
It was not
Because
how
Civil War started overseas with the book.
Yeah.
I know we have that scene, but that's not like in the first Iron Man. He's in Iraq.
Yeah, there's just
Well, in
that
Civil War,
flashback
it's a
scene when he's
flashback,
looking at it's like a
but
hologram.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
he's like a teenage. He's
But
not
he's-
like
Yeah.
I
Do we
wouldn't say
see
he's a kid.
young Thor and Loki, right? In the first Thor, don't we see them as kids?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And
you're right.
and we all, maybe we don't see him because he's off camera, but don't we see him like in Iron Man 2 when he sees the tapes of his dad talking about the Stark?
Oh,
He's
yes.
not on
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
He's talking to him like off camera, and he's just like, put that
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
or something like that.
There's that one,
Yeah.
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 So there's been a few. Is
Yeah.
the answer. I'm curious what you guys thought, because right about then is when we get Secretary Ross, and I thought for sure he was going to be like a major part of this movie.
Yeah,
and it was
same.
like this little cameo thing, and then you never see him again. But what did you think? Was he underused? Was it just a fun cameo? What did you think, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know if it was underused. I don't know that I needed any more of it, but I think it was to like remind us where we are like in the timeline, because the movie's so late. So they're like, all right, we got to put this in so people remember where the fuck we are. So I thought it was. I always think it's cool to see all these cameos, especially if they don't drag it out. So I was like, okay, it helped me like remember, like it helped put it in place. For me personally.
Yeah, because you've got like, we got this person and this person and this person, and the Cap's on the run, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, all right, that's what's going on. Yeah, it was a good quick reminder. What did you think, Amanda?
Yeah, it was like a little quick cameo, and like I don't like Secretary Ross, so I'm like, oh my god, Civil War flashbacks, I gotta deal with like seeing his face, but it was like 2 seconds, so it was fine. But yeah, like Chris said, you're like taking it back to Civil War, so like that was a good placement just to have him there.
Now, Ren, I think you had mentioned, wasn't it like you thought you got spoiled by seeing him in something, right? Yes. So not really.
Not really. As soon as the movie ended, I'm like, I had already seen most of his scenes, so it really wasn't a big deal seeing the one shot of him in the trailer. I guess like Chris, I wasn't expecting much. I think it was more to context the movie in a time frame for not so much for the general audience, but for us. We're gonna read every detail about the story, so we know where it's said going in. For the general audience, I think it's a great visual key to place this movie in the timeline of the MCU. And I like Ross as an antagonist. Obviously, the point is not to like him, so I guess in that way they're doing something right. And William Hurt is great, so it was really nice to see that connective thread that the MCU does so great with connecting all these movies. It's not just one character show up. This thing in the background that matters in the other movies is also here, and tons of other stuff in this movie going forward.
What did you think, James? I was really hoping for like hints towards Red Hulk coming, and then I thought, well, obviously this was so long ago. I feel like we would have known that, but what did you think?
I honestly agree with pretty much what's been said. I mean, it's necessary for fans that have been so disconnected from the timeline for such a long time, and we haven't sat down for an MCU movie in almost 2 years by this point. So he was that connective thread to get us all back on track and understand the timeline. But what I will say is, right when I thought that they might be leaning on him too much, and I'm like, no, please, we don't need more William Hurt. We need more of everyone else that you've already introduced. That's when they cut away. So I'm so glad they didn't have this over-reliance on his cameo, but instead it was nice in the beginning and then at the end.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. What did you think, Elliot?
Yeah, General Ross is a very interesting character. I honestly thought, because I remember, I don't know when this rumor was out there that Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. was going to have some surprise cameo or small role in the film like years ago, which I would have loved. Because again, we got to remember, the Sokovia Accords are still active. So I was hoping that it was going to be like General Ross has a team, not the Avengers, but like a fake mock-up of Tony Stark, not in his suit, but like a deployed, Iron Man suit going on the mission to find Natasha. Because again, he has to abide by the rules. So I was hoping that it was going to be a little bit more connective tissue with them trying to get Natasha, because General Ross clearly cannot catch anybody, because Natasha got away from him 3 times in this film, and just she walks away at the end of the film after she was arrested, I thought. But nonetheless, I was hoping for a little bit more for the character, because he's been there since the Incredible Hulk, and obviously and a lot at the MCU. I'm going to get more of him, but I was just hoping for a little bit more connective tissue with Civil War.
Yeah, it just felt really quick, but I think he served his purpose. I don't know. What did you think, Leo?
I was hoping for some kind of hint towards Red Hulk, because there's going to be the Thunderbolts. At least that's what they're leading up and building to. So I was hoping for some kind of hint that he would be involved. But I think his role in it is fine. I would have liked a little bit more hint to the future. Some connective tissue would have been nice, but it kind of was just in and out, and I didn't feel myself middle of the movie like, man, I really wish Ross would come back. Once he was gone, he was just gone. But I would have loved Red Hulk, like a build up to that and what's going to happen with the Thunderbolts. We haven't even seen him involved, not in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier or here. So how are we going to play him in? Is he going to be Red Hulk? They're going to change it to another character. Like, I'm so curious as to how Marvel is going to go down that route with that character.
You have no idea. I mean, look what they just did to Taskmaster. I mean, that's the thing with Marvel is you can't rely on the comics as a hint to what we're gonna get in the MCU.
Yeah.
You just
William Hurt is like 80 years old. He's not going to be Red Hulk. They're going to change it to someone else.
They de-aged him, right? Did they de-age William
They
Hurt in that
could.
moment? He looked
I
older.
didn't
Yeah.
notice.
He looked
They
old
did.
to me.
Yeah,
Pretty
maybe.
sure.
He looked older. But yeah.
What did you think of him, Andrea?
I mean, I was pretty much on the same page as everyone else that, you know, I kind of didn't think too much of him. Just, I mean, it was, I knew we were getting him in the movie. I figured he would be like the connective tissue between, Civil War and this movie. Also just because, I always forget that like not everyone is an insane Marvel person like I am. So I always have to be like, oh, right, that's probably, people probably need context for at least some of the bigger things that have happened over the past few years because they're not watching the movies like every day like I am. But one of my favorite things about his little cameo thing was just kind of the reactions that we got from Natasha in those moments, because my favorite thing about Natasha, which this movie let us see so well that we've never really gotten to see, is like her personality and her, her sarcasm and how like really everything that the other movies have never let us dive into. So I loved when she was like, F you, Ron's like, what the hell are you doing? You're being dumb. Like, you're real. Like, it just made me so happy. And like, this is like the kind of content that I wanted. So I love that it was able to give us that kind of that little interaction that I feel like that's how she would have reacted to him in Civil War, but she was kind of too like in between, everything and kind of too caught up. So I'm glad it gave us that, but also I kind of just saw it as, it was there to kind of do its job, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, you're right, though. She did have some good one-liners against him. I mean, and that's one thing I love about her, especially we know from the comics. She's so sarcastic, and we don't get enough of that in the MCU. But you're right. This movie did do a pretty good job of a lot of that. But what did you guys think? So then all of a sudden we get into it's Yelena like ends up she's fighting this other like older widow, and then she like sets her free, and she's like free the others, and she kills her, and she snaps out of it. Did you guys like how quickly they snapped her out of it, and that she wasn't like, being controlled for a super long time? It was like, this is what happened, and now we're going to snap her out of it so that we can move on with the movie. What did you think, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I think it helped move the movie along instead of like we know where it's going to end up. So like, let's explain how this drug works, this antidote, and let's keep it moving. So I was cool with it. I agree.
Yeah, I think it was good because they could have easily spent, half an hour on that. And what did you think, Amanda?
Oh, I totally agree. It was fast paced. It was great. And we got to see like Yelena as Yelena for like the rest of the film. So I really loved that it was just that fast, and it worked. It really worked.
Yeah. What did you think, Ren?
I really enjoyed it. Like you guys, I thought it was really fast, effective. Let's get this out of the way. And by this point, we already understand what the plot is going to be. We understand what is going on, how it's going to connect like their bigger mission by the end of the film, how it's all going to come together and all going to converge. And that's why I have a problem with the scene that comes a few minutes after this, but we'll get to it.
Oh, I'm intrigued. James, what did you think about this part?
Yeah, I was actually surprised that they moved past it so quickly. And that's when I understood the pacing. And I'm like, okay, so the screenplay is moving very quickly to Yelena and Natasha. Like, we're not wasting any time getting to that point. And I'm actually glad they didn't over-explain the antidote. Like, we don't need to know the inner workings of it. We just need to know it works. So I'm glad that they didn't try to focus too much on that. And instead, they just snapped Yelena out of it. And she's like, okay, I'm on a mission now to go and free all the other widows.
Yeah, I thought that was good. And I do like even later on, they bring it up real quick and they're like, they wanted to figure out how it worked, right? Because they didn't even know. And you're like, good. You're like, I don't care. No one cares. Just it works. Move along. What do you think, Elliot?
Well, I guess I'll be that guy. I actually did want to know kind of the workings of the antidote, because to me, it's just like, okay, so she snaps out of it. How long has she been under this trance? Has it been weeks? Is it just on the mission? Has she been under this trance for years? I want to kind of get a little bit of context. I felt like we literally just were plopped into a scene, which is fun sometimes, but I'm just like, whoa, where are we going? Who is this woman? And I guess too, does the film confirm that it was Melina that created the antidote? Like, who created the antidote?
Mm-hmm.
She did. She worked at, because that's how
Melina?
she was controlling the pigs, and she was talking about how she,
Just sort of figured that. So, but I just wanted to kind of sit in the scene a little bit more, and I would have actually liked to kind of go back with Elena. I would have liked if she was under the spell, because I would have felt that fight, which was really great between the two sisters. I thought it would have been more visceral with them. She's under the control of this, and then having Black Widow be the one that kind of snaps her sister out and gets her out of this trance. So I would have liked to had a little bit of connective tissue, just a little bit more. But yeah, I'm a sucker for like explaining things. So I'm just like, wait, who the hell? Where's this antidote coming from? And you can just sniff it, and people. I was just like, I don't know. I like those little details sometimes.
I thought you make some really fair points, because it is like we did just literally get dropped right in that scene, and then. But what did you think about it, Leo?
Oh man, Elliot, you might have changed my mind a little bit there, man. Talking about them fighting with her still under control, that would have been really cool. But I think the first 20 to 30 minutes of this film is paced immaculately. Like, I think, get right into it. Let's not have Elena under a spell too long during the movie. And I like that they just throw it right in our face. But I was a little confused at first. When it happened, I was kind of just like, okay, what was that? Is she going to be under a further control? Is like, what is going on with the serum? Then when I saw her snap out of it, obviously, but yeah, it does kind of took me by surprise a little bit. Like, what just happened?
What did you think about that, Andrea? I really liked. I thought it was kind of perfectly done. I thought we saw enough of it to know exactly, what she did, like when she was brainwashed like that. We understood, what she was forced to do. We understood her mindset. We understood, how she felt about it. And I'm glad, I'm also glad they didn't kind of linger too long on it, because I feel like that's just stuff we don't really need in this film. That's about so many other things, especially with her character development being what it is. And so, and it's Florence like doing some really great acting. So I'm happy we had a little of it. But I think it was exactly, what we needed. They understood we didn't really need to dwell on it that much.
Yeah, Florence, I'll tell you, she kills it in this role. She's so good in this movie. I absolutely love her, and I cannot wait to see more of her. But so then we move forward, and we end up getting that first like appearance of Taskmaster, right? Activate Taskmaster protocol, is that how they called it? And then you see I was going to say Scarlett, but you see Natasha going, they bring up Budapest, and then she does that whole pronouncing it. I can't even pronounce it how she pronounced it, but I love that scene so much. I'm like, I need to go back and just watch this over and over. Her like pronouncing that is my favorite thing in the world right now. And then of course, as she's leaving, we see Taskmaster show up, and they get into this first fight, and you kind of realize Taskmaster can copy. I mean, if you didn't know already, Taskmaster can copy people. They do that flip at the same time, which I thought was amazing. But Chris, what did you think about those moments?
Yeah, I thought those moments were good, and I guess it's when we're introduced to like her friend, that dude. I guess that part.
Friend zone, yeah.
Which first of all, that dude.
We've all been there.
That dude looks like Craig David. I don't know if anyone knows Craig David.
I do know Craig David. I've seen him. Anyway, go on. That's off topic.
Yeah, that's good music right there.
It is. I've seen him live a few times, but well, yeah.
I mean, like if I've been talking about this on Elliot's show with Loki. Like, no, they're not making out, and I was like, why can't this guy make out with Natasha? I was just like this guy. I just wanted. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. I'll get that. I just felt for that ending. Well, we'll get to that. Ellie knows. But yeah, I thought the scene was fine. It explains like how the Taskmaster moves and copying the moves, and you get to see a lot of like homage to like a lot of the other MCU characters like throughout the movie. So I thought that's cool. The Taskmaster, of course, is going to be a topic of debate, but that part at least is cool. That you're seeing these moves and the shield and all that kind of stuff, Black Panther claws and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah, the claws and stuff are cool. I love that they use Taskmaster to bring in elements from all the other Avengers in the movie so that they kind of feel like they're a part of it. But it's also these scenes kind of help you realize like that they are after the whatever it is, the antidote, right?
Yeah.
Because Taskmaster just walks away from Natasha to go get him. So what did you
Which is
think?
silly to
Amanda?
me, but
I know, like what did
Why?
it say?
so silly.
It said like it said something on the screen, right? Like go
Why
to your
wouldn't the
Go
task
to
be
primary target.
primary target. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. I don't know. What did you think, Amanda, though?
Well, I kind of like that Nat kept him as a friend just because I didn't want that to happen. I wanted her to be central focus, like no love interest. Not that there's anything wrong with a love interest, but like I'm just happy that that's where they kept him because he was cool. He came in once in a while and helped her out and all that. So I was just kind of happy that it stayed that way. But Taskmaster looked fantastic. I was so excited for this character. They killed it. That fight scene was amazing. I was just so amped, and then, you know, stuff and things happened. But I was just, I was impressed with the costume, the movements, everything. And I'm like, this is such a perfect villain for Nat to go up against. And I was just so happy in that moment, at least. So
in that moment. I know, I do love that scene. I think it was a great first time seeing Taskmaster in action. And it was good to just be the two of them in the dark on this bridge, you know? What did you think, Ren?
So I really like this introduction for Taskmaster. I really like how Taskmaster is used for the majority of the film because whoever the person is comes across like a Michael Myers type of figure. The score booming up from Lorne Balfe again is a wonderful work. This fight scene on the bridge is the best fight scene in the entire film for me in terms of choreography, in terms of emotional thematic significance. I thought that's but it really shined on all fronts, and it only sets the groundwork for, and we see throughout the rest of the film doing Cap moves, Natasha moves, Black Panther, Bucky's knife flip against the Red Guardian. The only thing I don't know is who does he take the sword fighting from? Maybe Thor, but adapting from a hammer to a sword. Not sure there, but yeah, this fight scene really, really well done, and I like how it foreshadows how different the fight is at the end between the two of them when the identity is revealed and all that, and how different this one is in comparison in terms of character objective and character motivation. For Natasha, it changes drastically, and I really like seeing that.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very good point. I hadn't even thought about that. What did you think, James, of the first Taskmaster fight and Natasha's fantastic pronunciation of Budapest?
Is it Budapest?
Budapest.
Budapest.
Yeah.
Budapest.
I just knew that Ren was going to bring up the score because dang it, Ren, we had this conversation in the DMs. I don't know the way they shot and filmed Taskmaster in this movie. It always felt like that character was taller than everyone else. That character was the biggest character. It was the most intimidating character, and it worked so well with me. That's the first time I think I've genuinely been intimidated by a villain in the MCU since Thanos. Because I don't know what it is about the way that they shot this character. And then, of course, at the end, you do feel more so for the character of Taskmaster. But I will agree with Ren. This fight on the bridge was the best fight in the entire movie because it didn't require an overabundance of green screen and a ton of different CGI and effects. This was exactly what I wanted because this plays to that spy movie. This plays to the homage to the 007 films and even to Winter Soldier. The hand-to-hand was the best part of the film, and this scene just exemplified that. So I loved it, Tessa.
Yeah, this is great hand-to-hand combat. The whole movie, but that scene really, really shines. Elliot, what did you think?
You know, just thinking, because I want to go back to OT as Rick, the friend zone guy who can get Quinjets out anywhere. I would have loved if they would have referenced, even though I think this character is, we'll see what happens with the power broker, but I would have loved if he would have been associated with the power broker in regards to getting certain resources. We never know who it is because obviously this movie was supposed to come out before Falcon Winter Soldier, which we get a character from that at the end of the movie. But I would have loved something for Rick because he was so such a wasted character. I don't even know why he was in the film. But to go to the positives, I thought that fight was awesome. I mentioned it earlier that I think this film plays a lot homage to The Winter Soldier, and that's where I felt when I first saw the Taskmaster. Like, oh, this is Bucky Barnes fighting Cap on the highway, and like you don't want to fight this person, you don't want to come around this person because you're going to probably lose. So I love that menacing nature of the character, which was so cool. But I do, like I said, just a nitpick. I wish in that moment, because it just kind of shows like the plot armor that Natasha has for the whole movie, because we know she's going to survive. But I mean, she survives a missile blowing up the car, and the Taskmaster's objective, yes, to get the antidote, but wouldn't it be to eliminate the person that has the antidote, to cover your tracks? And to do that, I don't know why that's not part of the mission control, but again, plot armor. But nonetheless, it was a cool fight scene between those two characters.
Listen, Natasha can survive anything but a fall, apparently. So-
2 cars flying in the sky. I mean, hey, Natasha was
A fall on
Too
Vormir.
soon.
A fall, right? A specific fall, because
She
she
was
died
awesome.
with
She
this
was
one
awesome.
too.
He's an Avenger, so.
Right, exactly. Leo, what did you think about this Taskmaster fight and all that?
Well, speaking of falls, like Natasha eats up a fall later in the movie and lands on her 2 feet. So I was like, well, how the hell did that happen? You died in Endgame. But anyway, man, why'd they have to friend zone homie like that? Like, don't even have him in the movie if we gonna just at the end, that's what friends are for. Oh, come on, my man. Like, y'all could have brought in somebody else. It could have been Rachel Weisz with more screen time. Who knows? But that character, look, great performance, but man, his role, unfortunate. Taskmaster, though, holy smokes. When we saw that first hand-to-hand combat scene, I was in love with that, guys. Seriously, it is some of the best practical in the MCU, and I just love that one shot where Taskmaster swinging on the rope, heats up the sword, and is coming down towards Natasha. That had my heart absolutely racing, and I was hoping that we would have that same momentum throughout the movie with the fight scenes, and I think, unfortunately, that's the peak, and it kind of starts to slip downhill from there. So, like, looking back, I love it, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I wish maybe that even could have been middle or towards the end of the movie, because I had that expectation in the next fight scenes, and it's not that they weren't as good, but they just weren't as good. Like, they just weren't up to that par with that first one. Like, man,
Like, it set the bar pretty high
it
to
did
start off. Yeah.
other fight scenes, and maybe not as high as that bar, you know?
Yeah. Andrea, what did you think about all this? And I know you love her pronunciation of Buddha, that whole scene. Budapest. I love that scene. I can watch it all day.
I know. I'm going to be talking about that like forever. No, I agree. I think I said this in my review even, that like, Mason, the character of Mason was underused. And I mean that genuinely. Like, I actually really would love to I would have loved to see more of them. And they're like little cute, like I said before, one of my favorite things about Natasha is like we've never been able to see her real personality, her, her joking, her sarcasm, all of that. And like we saw that with him, which is someone like outside of the Avengers, outside of people we didn't know. So I wish we had gotten more of that. And like I understand that we didn't. But also I liked that it did kind of show, I think like, I mean, my personal feeling was at the point of having him in it was just kind of to show that she did have other people from her past that she was like friends with, or, even not even friends with, but just like felt comfortable with, that we could kind of see different aspects of how she relates to people. So I appreciated it for that, even though I wish she was in it a little more, just because they were cute. They were cute together. And the Taskmaster scene, I loved. I mean, so everyone's talking about like how it was compared to Winter Soldier, which is what I also felt, especially in that scene, at the beginning of the scene where she gets in her car and she's driving along the bridge and everything's like sweet. She's giving her to see it and it's great. And then like, boom, that comes out of nowhere, which kind of is exactly what happens with the whole Nick Fury car chase in Winter Soldier, when all of a sudden, like, he gets cornered and Bucky comes. And that just kind of threw you into the action. And that whole scene was just so well done. It was dark and it was gritty. And I love that it kind of got that intense. It didn't kind of shy away from being like, this is a character who's really ruthless and is going to stop at nothing to kill you. And they made that clear, like, as when I did the set visit, they had mentioned that, like, he's like has one mission. He just needs to kill Natasha. He's so ruthless. And they really made him that ruthless. Like, you believe that he would literally stop at nothing. I guess. I don't know. It's spoiler chat. It's a spoiler chat, but it would stop at nothing to get her. So I love that whole scene. I thought it was great.
Except unless the antidote isn't near her, then they'll walk away from
Well,
her. But
true.
but yes, in that part anyway. Later, it becomes. But I do like this comment here. Said that Mason was used so that they could use him in the ad campaign for a red herring for Taskmaster's identity, and I think that's
Very true.
that's pretty true.
I was about to say he shouldn't have gotten any posters. Why did he get posters? He's in the movie for like 5 minutes.
So people would think, oh, maybe
Exactly.
that's Taskmaster.
And where was my guy during Winter Soldier when Steve and Natasha was on the run? She couldn't call him then if they were such
That's
good friends.
true.
Well, maybe.
Bingo.
Very true.
Maybe he didn't want anything to do with her after she put him in the friend
But we all
zone.
really,
I don't know.
I mean, we all know he wasn't created obviously because they didn't have the Black
Right.
Widow film in place. So you know.
Ask Kevin; he'll give you an explanation. Just ask Kevin; he'll come up with something. But so then we go on and we get to see Natasha and Yelena like interact again. And I will tell you, every single time I've seen this, it feels weird to me that they go right into a fight. I love it because I just love seeing them fight. But it feels like why? I guess. I guess because they haven't seen each other in a while. They don't know if they can trust each other type of thing. The Red Room still exists, you know. But I love that part. And I love that, you know, they have that whole fight. But then they even say, what bullets make those? Not bullets, arrows. And I was like, yay, we get to talk about Clint. So we got, you know, more explanation of Clint and all that as well, which finally we get part of the story. Although I still want a movie doing just that whole story, even though we know it. I don't care. I still want it. But Chris, what did you think about the fight between sisters when they first reunited and all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't question why they were fighting because I just felt like in every movie that's what you get, like this kind of thing. And it's like it's been a while. We must fight to like this is how we say hello. It's just like
That's how heroes say hello to each other. Right?
Yeah,
Each other in the
exactly.
face.
Exactly. It's like move over, handshakes, no more. I thought it was cool. I think myself and the rest of my theater reacted a lot to the the backing up, like watch your step, like it's like that big sister, which you see a lot throughout the rest of the film. Like that's part of the reason why I love it. It's like it's some real sibling moments. I don't know who has siblings on this panel, but like you really feel like they made a conscious effort to like make this very realistic as far as like how sisters would really be like in this world. So I was cool with the scene.
Yeah, I have a little sister, and that's like it felt so believable, the two of them.
Yeah.
What did you think, Amanda?
I thought it was great. It was just so much fun to see them like right off the bat, like, hey, hello, yeah, I'm gonna fight you now. And like I love the choreography. It worked because of who they are. So it made complete sense for them to kind of be more reserved at first to see like where they stand and then go into the fight. So I really liked that. And you know, the bullets and arrows, all of that, and the story. Like I was beaming. I'm like, thank God we have something. We got something. But yeah, it was wicked. One of my second favorite fight scene in the movie, next to Taskmaster at the beginning. So it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was just fun watching the two of them, just how they interact with each other. What did you think, Ren?
There are 3 great fight scenes in this movie, and this is the second one of them. I love how it starts. Because Natasha probably thinks Yelena is still under the Red Room's, not under the Red Room's control, because she thinks the Red Room is gone, but still not on her side. And so for Natasha is that. For Florence is also she doesn't know why she's here because she says she thought she wouldn't come back. She doesn't know she has the vials with the red pixie dust. I love this fight and what I alluded to, that the quick visual exposition on the antidote and Yelena getting out of the trance and all that, I think really worked. And I think in this scene, the conversation they have after the fight should have happened during the fight. It would have made the conversation much more visually interesting. It would have added depth and understanding while they're fighting. And imagine just them talking about this while they're fighting, and then as they come to terms, boom, the other widows come in to try and stop him and kill him and take the vials. I think it would have just bettered the pacing of the film a little bit. But outside of that nitpick and basically combining 2 sections of the scene together, I think it really worked. And it was the first showing of the best scenes in this movie, which is the 2 of them.
Yeah, you're right. The 2 of them together are so great. But now that you say that, like that's how I wish it had gone. I wish they had that conversation I had not thought of that. I kind of love that idea. What did you think, James?
Yeah, that would have been great, Ren. Dude, I'm gonna hopefully petition to get you hired for the next.
Do it, Feige.
Let's do
Nova movie needs to be written. I'm here.
I really love the way that this scene was shot, because I feel like over the last year and a half, we've been in this pandemic era where we've gotten these action movies that, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, it's just like headache inducing. Like, why do they make these certain cuts? Why are you lingering on this? Like, I'm thinking of Nobody, right? Even though I know a lot of people like that film, I hated the way that action was shot. But here it was nice, because even though they were within like 4 walls and it was a very small space, to me it felt like the playing field was really like large, and they were able to pull off all these acrobatics, and I felt like the hand-to-hand, the stunt work was great. And it's cool that it told a little story in between. It's like, hey, these two sisters do not like each other. And then when you see the other widows drop in, it's like all of a sudden their sisterly instincts kick in, and they're like, wait a second, we are sisters. Yeah, we need to really like fight to hopefully save these widows and like fight back against whomever is controlling them. So I love the little arc that was building there.
Yeah, I love that too. It is. It's again very reminiscent of how siblings are in real life. Like that would be me and my sister. We're fighting, but then someone else comes in, we're together, you know? Like exactly like Natasha was at the beginning too, protecting her, right? Like you're not going to touch her. So what did you think, Elliot?
Yeah, which now is starting to make me think, why did Natasha attack her sister? If she thought the Red Room didn't exist anymore, then why would be Yelena's threat? But to go to them as sisters, as you know, if you haven't seen it in a long time, and just going off of I love the fight choreography, because it reminded me so much of like Jason Bourne. I can't remember if it was Ultimatum or I didn't even the close when they were fighting in the bathroom, just the close quarters and just the hand-to-hand combat was great. But seeing those sisters come together and teaming up to fight on the rest of the Black Widows, which I wish were more implemented in the movie, more so than I guess Taskmaster, from being honest. But yeah, I like them kind of going toe to toe and head up and having that conversation. And again, the Easter egg with Clint and his arrows being in the wall was pretty cool. But yeah, those two on screen together was the best part of the film.
Yeah, I kind of thought real quick. I thought that I think in my head I thought it's been so long since she's seen me, you know, seeing Natasha. Like maybe she's angry that I left her hanging and like just left her. Like I'm an Avenger. Like it's been a long time. She's gonna be angry. Like we're gonna be fighting. I think that's what I told myself.
I can see that too.
I'm not punching anyone in the face that I haven't seen in a long time. I'm not an Avenger and even someone that looks over my shoulder.
I think even with the Red Room gone, since she hadn't seen it in 21 years was when they were separated and Yelena was being indoctrinated. So even if the Red Room was gone, it just meant they couldn't create any new Black Widows, but the ones they had created before were still around. So that's what I think Natasha was coming from.
That makes sense. Leo, what do you think? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I just thought I pretty much it made sense for me. I was like, look, they probably just don't trust each other after having not seen each other for so long. It's kind of like, what's your motive versus my motive? So maybe they were just a little bit tense and paranoid at what the other one was particularly wanting in that moment. So it worked for me. Again, another great battle we got though. Man, that hand-to-hand was so good, y'all. I liked the Taskmaster one the most, but this was another great hand-to-hand fight scene. The choreography was awesome. The editing was really tasteful, too. I like that they didn't cut so harshly. There were cuts in there, but it was not so harshly choppy to where you couldn't see anything. You saw blows land, and when she throws her up on the cabinet, just so cool. The action in this scene is so cool, and I think it's a great way to introduce them as sisters and then bring the other widows in later on. I agree with you, Elliot. I think I want more of the widows. Like, we didn't get enough of them in the movie, and it would have been nice to explore them a little bit more, but this scene really worked for me and was one of the best fight scenes in the movie, easily.
I really loved it. I love the sister dynamic. And of course, I got to know what Andrea thinks. I'm sure she did too. But were you super like geeking excited when they mentioned the arrows? Because,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I knew we were going to get something Budapest. I mean, they've been saying that we were going to get something in Budapest. But what I loved about that, and like I'm like really big, than Nat Chipper. So like I've been in these trenches since 2012 at least. But like my favorite thing is that like they gave us all the background on Budapest, but they didn't but like they still let us have our headcanons, if that makes sense. So like I love that they said, and they said, yeah, we're going to explain this, we're going to give a little background, we're going to say what happened there, and we're going to give us like context, but they didn't give so much that like it felt that they were trying to like shoehorn it in, or it didn't felt like we were trying to like overly like really drive something into the ground to explain it from like 8 years ago, when it was like a throwaway line, which probably was like at the time. And so I love that. Like, I really love that they had all those little mentions, and she referenced Clint, and she was clearly like important to her. But like we got but like we can still kind of, as fans and like people who are really invested in that, can kind of make their own. Like still have their own ideas about what happened, and like they say they remember Budapest very differently. Like, yeah, Clint probably remembers playing tic-tac-toe in an air vent, and Natasha probably remembers like fighting for her life. Like, it just kind of makes sense. So I was very happy with all of that, and I'm very happy with the way they handled it. And I loved, I mean, the Natasha and Elena stuff is just like that. That was the heart of the movie for me. And just there, again, like you keep using the same words, and I probably will keep using the same words, but like everything about this film, from like the fights and the kind of like the aesthetic, was just so like raw and real and brutal. And then just that theme is like through everything in the film, especially with this sister fight. I mean, I love that's how, you know, they're two assassins who haven't seen each other forever. Like, that's how you would greet someone, right? Like, it's, you know, and that whole chase scene where, you know, they're chased after the other widow, and it was, there were so many action scenes that were just so good in this film.
It was nice to see action at the forefront again.
Yeah.
Because you get so much of it, and it's like great stuff in between, but then you really get a lot of action, which I really liked. And you know, shortly after this, that's when Natasha becomes convinced, okay, the Red Room is back. When they force the widow to kill herself, and she just looks right at her and she's like, I don't want to do this. That was like heartbreaking, that moment. Does anyone have anything they want to say about that moment? I loved it.
I mean,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I thought it was a good way to, like, story-wise, I thought it was a good way to be like, okay, I'm convinced about this, because, like, Yelena could keep saying, like, you know, back and Natasha could be like, I guess I believe you, and, like, you know, and it would have felt, like, a little forced, and, or, like, and they couldn't have obviously gone into, like, a huge thing of backstory about how, like, the Red Room was still there and all that, so I thought that was, like, a nice little... Like, it was just enough in the scene to be like, okay, like, you convinced me, and, you know, I didn't kill him. So, and it was heartbreaking too, but it served, I like that it was such a small moment, but it served so many purposes overall in the film.
Mm-hmm. Ren, what were you going to say?
I thought there was an incredible sense of powerlessness in that one instant when she says, I don't want to do this, because Natasha knows what this is. Instead of us having Elena vocally, verbally, maybe with some schematics or whatever, trying to show Natasha what is happening, the best way to show Natasha what is happening in the context of a film would be for her to see someone and go through, well, not die, obviously, she hasn't been through that, but going through that process of not being able to control yourself, having no control of your life. That's... Yeah. The only way she is certain, it's still happening, because I know what that feels like.
Yeah, you're right. That part, I just love everything about it, because it's so intense, and it's just one little line to be able to deliver so much. And like you said, Andrea, be so important, and just the one little thing. And that's the beauty of Marvel. And that's why I love Marvel so much, because I feel like they do stuff like that so well. But then we get this amazing, another big fight scene. It's also where we get to see that they play tic-tac-toe in an event, which I do kind of love that. But so what did you guys think about this next action scene, and Taskmaster, again, just being amazing? Chris, you can go first, because you're next to me.
It's a great place to be right next to your chest. Yeah, I think based on my memory, I thought a lot about the tic-tac-toe, and I was like, oh man, like they're really giving a lot of Hawkeye here. And I figured, I was like, damn, someone's gonna zoom into this on a breakdown, like an Easter egg video, and there's gonna be some fucking like fan theories based on like the tic-tac-toe order and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, there already is, don't worry.
Oh, naturally.
Isn't there a hangman thing too? It goes so quick.
Someone's already put screenshots of
like, who won those games? Was it Natasha? Was it Clint? Who won?
Yeah, and then it's like, is that like they just decide who's gonna fucking die in Vormir based on these games? Like, I won the last tic-tac-toe.
That's why Elena hates Clint. That explains it now. It's like, you beat my sister.
Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I thought these scenes were really good. I like these a lot.
What did you think, Amanda?
Yeah, I loved it. Like every single nod to Clint was like perfect for me because of, you know, the history that they had. Of course, I would have loved to have seen like their own film together, which is what should have happened after the Avengers. Anyways, that's besides the point. But yeah, I loved it. Again, Taskmaster knocked it out of the park. The action sequences. I'm such a sucker for motorcycle chases that I was just like beaming. I'm like, oh my god, they did it! Because I love Mission Impossible. So like to see those motorcycle chases, I'm like, it's blessed. I'm like, thank God you guys did it. They killed it. But yeah, it was a great action scene for sure.
It's another great action scene. I loved it. What did you think, Ren?
Yeah.
I enjoyed the action scene. I was kind of disappointed that there's nothing to kind of make it stand out. Like, it's a chase scene, and chase scenes are kind of always cool by default at the very least. You have to actually make an effort to make them bad, because it's a freaking tank smashing the city around.
Yeah.
The car going down into the subway station. Really cool stuff. The nods to Hawkeye are really cool. And now that we brought it up, I will hate the Hawkeye show if Yelena at one point doesn't say, "My name is Yelena Belova, you killed my sister, prepare to die." But yeah.
James, what did you think about that chase scene? And then, and who do you think won tic-tac-toe?
Yeah, so that chase scene was incredible, and it had to be Nat, right? I mean, come on, like, there's no way she doesn't win that. I mean, she's just so much smarter, and she's great at being like a master of deceit. But I loved how the action scene's great, but it's everything kind of like after the action in this movie that I really enjoyed. So in those little moments where they break up the action, I feel like it does ground the film a little bit. It's not just, hey, come to Black Widow for a ton of action. You come to the movie for the action, but you stay for the story and the development and all of that background information you get, because those little Easter eggs that just build on the lore of the MCU. And I think that's what this film does so great at, is like everything in between is as valuable as the action you just saw. So yeah, I did love this sequence a ton.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good point. That's what I love, that Marvel knows what they're doing with that stuff. They are good at the story as well as the action. What did you think, Elliot?
Yeah, no, Andrea brought it up earlier in regards to that Winter Soldier explosion scene. This scene actually kind of reminded me a little bit more, because it was in the daylight, and also too when Bucky comes in and blows up, and you know, we see that Nick Fury went underground, and that kind of played to this time we're seeing Taskmaster go underground because he's led to believe that they went under there. So that really was like, okay, yeah, this is some Winter Soldier vibes for sure. And also Amanda with the Mission Impossible stuff on the motorcycles was pretty awesome. But again, the best part to me was, like you guys just mentioned, it's the interactions. The action's cool, but seeing the sisters kind of butt heads, what's your plan, and all that different stuff, and just seeing them go back and forth was really fun. But as far as an action set piece goes, it was cool, but I love the interactions more so. And also this little Easter egg of the tic-tac-toe and all that stuff was pretty fun.
Yeah, what did you think, Leo? I mean, I want to know. I'm sure there's a screenshot Andrea said, right, of the hangman. I got to figure that out. But
there
Leo,
is. There, I'll remind me and I'll send it to you. It's on.
Yeah.
I saw it on Tumblr. I got to find it again.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to know. But Leo, what did you think of that action scene? And then, who do you think won TikTok? Nat?
Oh, Nat for sure. I mean, it's Nat's movie. We gonna say Nat did win it in her movie. Like, yeah, it's definitely Nat. But Andrea, now you got me wanting to go back and just like point times 0.5 that scene of the tic-tac-toe. Yeah, I'm like, I gotta frame by frame that sucker, because what the heck is going on up in the vents? But good. I mean, great action scene. I love action sequences, and Marvel does them well, and this was a nice sprinkle in before we get into the more family moments later on in the movie. So I thought this was a good way to kind of cut the action down, because yeah, Taskmaster, then you had Yelena and Tasha fighting, then you had this. It kind of was getting a little bit much, and then they ramp back down, which Marvel does so well with their pacing. My question is, how come nobody ever picks up them shields? So Captain America and Taskmaster be throwing their shields like frisbees, and it just hits in the walls and drops down in the plate. I'm like, wouldn't you think, let me grab the shield, get away from him? Why? What's up without having the shield, y'all? Like,
I don't know.
They dug, the shield was there. They could have just took it right out, dipped out, had his shield, just like later on in the movie, David Harbour's character, Red Guardian, takes the shield. Like, the only character in the entire MCU to take somebody's shield and be like, all right, I got you, sucker, I got your weapon. I wonder why that doesn't happen that much, but great action scene, great action sequence, and the interactions were awesome as well. I really wonder if there's some Easter eggs now with that tic-tac-toe. I'm so curious.
There's got to
been
be
thinking that for the whole time.
Yeah, but what did you think of these moments, Andrea?
I love, so as someone who has been here since Avengers days, I walked out of that movie being like, I cannot believe that after 8 years they made Clint hanging out in the vents an actual canon thing, because that has been like, if anyone has been around fandom, like that has been, Clint hiding in the vents has been like a fandom thing since Avengers, like when people were writing fic and stuff. And it's just hysterical to me that they, whether or not it was intentional, I mean, it probably wasn't intentional, because I can't imagine a lot of people scroll on Archive of Our Own looking for fic, but like, but I'm so happy they made it canon. And it's just like, it's that little tiny win for like the fan part of me that's like invested in this on a non-professional level. But I loved it. And I thought, again, like it gave us, you know, really kind of good context into what happened in Budapest and their relationship and that whole, and I love that whole fight scene where, you know, they go down into the subway and and I didn't know they were, I mean, I didn't know a lot about the movie, but I guess like because I'd seen that car chase thing and, you know, they've been showing it in previews, I thought that was the only thing we were going to get. So when that continued and they went down like into the subway, it's like, oh my God, like this is intense. Like it's a real like chase scene. It's not just going to be like, okay, like we're eluding him and then like we do a little bit more fighting and then we elude him. Like, no, you're really going after. And then of course we got nice Yelena sarcasm, which, you know,
right.
I love.
I know. Yeah, I totally didn't even mention it. We got the whole posing thing, the whole thing about the vest, like all the pockets. That stuff was some of my favorite stuff. And especially when it comes back when she poses towards the end and she's like, ugh. Like she like gets
that's so hard.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Love
You
it.
guys, anybody want to talk about that humor and that Yelena and the vests and the pockets and
When she
Yeah.
backs
The
into the
posing?
car, I thought that was like the funniest thing, and it just kept
Yeah.
going from there. It's just like she's just a little
Yeah.
quip every couple seconds. It really works for the
Oh,
sense of the
you're-
dynamic.
It really had that like little sister seeking for
Yeah.
approval feel to it that's really endearing. It really connects the both of them. The chemistry is already great. The dialogue feels real. The not only what Yelena is saying, but what Natasha is replying, how she's acting towards the little sister feels so real. We can almost
Like-
connect to that. We are one of those siblings almost.
Like
Yeah,
for
and it's a
me,
lot
the
we've seen-
moment.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say the moment that like crystallized that for me is when they were talking about the vest in the car, and she's like, it's the vest, and she's like, yeah, I like it, and she's like, yeah, like I knew you liked it, and then she's like making fun of it, and she's like, come on, like the point is, I just got something of my own. Like everything about like the line delivery and like the banter was just like, this is like legit little sister, you know, relationship, and you could tell she's still like, you know, they had that dynamic, and that just sold everything for me. Just like the way that whole combo went. I love you. I love your relationship.
what were you gonna say, Chris?
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, that's the best part of the movie, as far as I'm concerned. Is like that's why Florence shines. It's like we're so used to seeing Natasha kind of carry this and be like the hey, you know, has anyone know where the Smithsonian says I'm looking for a fossil, like those kind of bars. So like now we're seeing someone that's like better at it, and like that's your little sister. Like, you know, like I don't think the God from the sky needs ibuprofen after a fight. Like elite level jokes. I mean, like the superhero landing, the whip your hair, like that's. I don't know what's ever been funnier than that in the MCU ever. So it's at a high level of humor.
It's so
Yeah,
great.
so-
I love how she actually got down and did it, and she's
Like,
like,
It's genius. Maybe
She gave it a
Loki
first
being
shot.
Like the, you know, that's how it feels in Ragnarok. Maybe something like that. But I'm like, it's been like that's tough to beat.
Chris, wait, I was just gonna bring that up actually, and I'm happy you did. So this was the first point in the movie where I thought, okay, who wrote the screenplay? Because the humor here is excellent, and I feel like every joke had value. Eric Pearson wrote the script for this film, and he also wrote the script for Thor Ragnarok, so it makes sense.
Look
There
at
you
Ragnarok
go.
supremacy.
Look at that.
Did you
Chris.
notice who else wrote the story? Did you guys notice who a familiar MCU name who also wrote the story? Jack Schaefer.
Jack Schaefer.
I had no idea. Like
I think
until I
she was
saw
the
the credits.
original. I think like when the film was being like in development, like you know, like 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, because I remember because I like because like at that point I was like kind of latching on to every single crumb that would be like from Variety, like film in development or like they got a director or whatever. Like I think she was one of the first people who did like a screenplay for it or like did some sort of foundation for it. So I think that's why they say he did the screenplay, but I think she did that's why it's I forget how they say it in the credits, something like additional
story,
or
which
something
is
like
basically
something. So
basically
I think,
it's the story points. Sister meets sister.
Look at this,
and
y'all.
blah, blah.
WandaVision just making waves.
Yeah.
I know. It's great. But speaking of the humor too, so then they go to break out Red Guardian, but when he's in the jail, I love just that scene where he's getting tattooed and he's arm wrestling everyone. And he's like, he thought he was going to win. And then the one guy calls him out and he breaks his arm and he's talking about him.
Ursa Major.
Like the girl. It's so good. So good. But what did you guys think of just that humor part, but then also the whole entire action breakout scene? And then after we get through this, we'll talk about that little conversation on the helicopter. But what did you think, Chris, of these moments?
Yeah, I thought we were seeing a whole different dude than the opening scene, this father figure dude. I'm like, what happened to this dude? It got dark. But it was funny. It was quick. I like the prison break scene. I liked, him telling these old war stories, which is realistic. That's what he would be talking about. I wish he didn't break that guy's hand. That seemed like it was uncalled for. But, I thought it was a cool scene.
It was so gross watching it flap.
Yeah.
What did you think, Amanda?
I loved David Arbor in this. Every time he was on screen, I was just dying of laughter. Every single thing he did. For me, he was funnier than Yelena in a different way. I guess the humor was different, but oh my God, David Arbor killed me. And just to touch on something we said before, it is the same screenwriter as Ragnarok. I'm unfortunately not a fan of Ragnarok, but for Black, I know everyone's shook. Oh my God, Amanda said it again. No. But
I'm with you.
Thank God. But with Black Widow, it's the fact that there was a balance. So they did let the humor breathe. For Florence Pugh to actually get down and do those actions, the whole superhero pose, they let that breathe, and that's why it was funny. Whereas in Ragnarok, it was joke, and it didn't really work for me. But this was a balance with emotional moments that they let breathe, and then the humorous moments that they let breathe. So that's why it worked for me, and it was just hilarious. And David Arbor I want to see more of him. Please do not hide him away from us. He killed it. He was awesome.
I would love to see him come back. And then in the press junket, someone asked him who he would want to be with, and he said Anthony Mackie now, because he said he hates everyone in he has an issue with Cap, clearly. Yeah. So he thought it would be a fun interaction between the two of them, and I'd be here for that for sure. Good. I would love to see the two of them on screen together. But Ren, what did you think of this whole jail scene and breakout scene?
I really enjoy the jail scene, the breakout in general. I love the humor here in the opening moment where he's arm wrestling and getting the tattoo and talking to Ursa Major, one of the members of the Red Guard, which is the USSR Avengers, and him talking bull crap about having faced Captain America, which I've seen a ton of people saying, oh, is it true? Which Captain... his entire character, his arc is coming from someone who constantly lies and bullcraps his way in and out of things to someone who actually speaks sincerely and apologizes to his daughters. So, of course, he's lying about having faced Captain America. I think as the film goes after this breakout, it's weird. I love David Harbour's delivery, and his charm is really effective. I just kept waiting for some kind of bigger catharsis through those scenes, because especially with the stuff when they're still in the helicopter after this, talking about and they vent against their father about what he actually did to them when he let him go back in the day. I'm like, this should feel heavier, because what they were the ovaries and the uterus and all those things that they're talking about that I can't even connect, because I'm a dude, but I still wanted for him to really come to terms with that in those moments. And for the characters to let that sink in, the gravity of his actions.
Yeah, that's fair. What did you think, James, of this part?
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that, Ren, because I feel like that's one of the few areas where the film glosses over some really, really strong themes. There are some elements to Black Widow where I'm like, you're telling us this now. Imagine if you showed it to us. I feel like we all would have our jaws on the ground. So maybe that's why they were trying to keep it very PG-13, right, Ren? They didn't want to make this film to be like even as close to ours as they could get it to, because I'm sure it could have been. But I love David Harbour. I mean, at this point, he must be calling on Netflix, like, clear my schedule. I don't need to do Stranger Things season 10. Like, I need to get into the MCU, to the TV shows. I mean, he's just excellent. He's funny, he's charming, but also I do think it is important that the movie does, by the end, of course, show us his arc, because I needed to see him come to terms and just apologize. He's not trying to pin anything else on anyone. He's like, hey, I take accountability for all my actions. So I love his character and the way they wrote him here.
Yeah, I love this whole part of him. And I definitely want to see more of him for sure. Elliot, what did you think?
Yeah, I know David Harbour's probably happy he can stick within that Russian thing, because we know Stranger Things season 4, he's going to have a Russian storyline going on with there. So he's probably just like staying in character. But no, I think I loved him in this movie. He was almost a pseudo version of like a Drax, almost where like he's powerful and strong, but he's a teddy bear inside. But I will say, I was going to say, that was going to be my next point. I love Thor Ragnarok a lot, but to Amanda's point, going back to the writer and going to Ren's point, it does kind of sometimes the comedy overshadows the emotion within the moments, because in that moment you're seeing your daughters for the first time in 20 plus years. I would hope it would have been a little bit more emotional versus the jokes. And again, very Thor Ragnarok, Odin dies, we get a joke. Ragnarok happens, we get a joke. So it does kind of overshadow. And Marvel sometimes have the theme with that, with just kind of the comedy kind of overshadows the more dramatic moments. But I wish Red Guardian was a little bit more straight serious than the jokey Drax stuff. And also too, like the Russian prison, I would have thought he would have been like the Juggernaut, and they would have had him in like a confined space. He's walking around. He's a Captain America. He has the Winter Soldier or the serum inside of his blood. Yeah, he should be like, he should just be able to walk around like he's a regular person. He's not, clearly. So that was a little bit kind of wonky to me, but no, I enjoyed the character, and can't wait to see where they bring him back in. Maybe he'll make an appearance in Hawkeye as well, and it's going to be the biggest show on Disney Plus. So we'll see.
Hey, I'd be okay with that. But that is a fair point. I didn't even think about the fact that like he's not in a like private cell.
He's walking around, right?
Yeah,
I guess they're scared. It's like, I don't know. Were they scared of him? They seem to be controlling him pretty easily, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a very fair point. Leo, what do you think?
Yeah, and to that point, they're like making fun of him and stuff, and he just blew his hand to the window and like pulled him over to the counter. And I'm like, these guys were just like making jokes about that guy 2 seconds ago. So wow, what the heck? But I mean, what I love so much about this is that you could tell David Harbour is having so much fun.
Yeah.
Like that energy just transcends through screen of how much fun he's having through this. Like the quips, the jokes. I like the joke. I love it. So I was loving his character in this. I think I would have liked to see him take down more guys in the action sequence. I think it was a little bit of underuse of his abilities. He's a super soldier, and I feel like throughout most of the movie, we don't really see that super soldier part of him come out. Like we see him fight a little bit. We see him knock over doors, lift the tank up in the beginning. And I'm like, he's doing all this stuff, but he doesn't even like bow through those guys. I mean, there was like quite a few of them, and Dom and Fast 9 held back that many guys, but you mean to tell me we can't show the Red Guardian bowing through a
Listen, Leo, we
guys?
know Dom and Superman, right?
Right. We already know it's all it takes is family. The superpower activates after the word familia. But I mean, good scene. The white looked amazing in Dolby Cinema. Amazing.
Yes.
That snow, the avalanche, it looked absolutely incredible on the big screen, and the sound was immaculate. So great scene.
Yeah, it's a really, really good scene. And I liked being able to see a lot of David Harbour, really, and of course, also we get that little part where Nat drops down and poses, and Elaine is like, pose. Like, I love this so much.
I just love that she did the hair whip and was like, the thing where you whip your hair. Yeah. It's so good.
That's too good.
That's so great. Andrea, what did you think of this whole part?
I love this whole scene. It was so fun to watch David Harbour. Like someone said, sorry, I just can't remember in this. Someone said that he's clearly just having like the time of his life with this role, and I think that's like it speaks so much to his character. Like he's just to see him, like that, and to see that really, and there's the dichotomy of like him with Natasha and Yelena being like, oh my god, like grow up, you're so like we're so over you in the sense. Like I love that part of it. And I mean, so I also went with my husband for like the most recent time, who loves David Harbour, and he was like hysterical during so many of his like quips and stuff, especially like the helicopter scene where they like run out of fuel and he's like, no, like we're fine. The helicopter drops, and like I've never heard someone laugh that hard. I loved, but that whole prison scene was so fun because it was. I kind of didn't realize until I stopped to think about it that it wasn't just a fight scene, like it was, but it was also infused with so much like humor and emotion, and like when he's running and she's like, "You made a scene," like really, and then she's like, my favorite thing is when, like you said, she drops down, he does the pose, and then like her and Elena are like arguing, after she's trying to like figure out how to. Like maneuver the helicopter, and Natasha gets up with her batons and she's like, "What are you doing? Go back," like an air traffic controller. And I was like, this is just like the most chaotic family breakout ever. And I love it because it's like that dynamic. So there's just so much that worked for me about the scene, and just David Harbour is just great. I mean, he's so talented.
It's so good. And then of course it leads into that whole, where they talk about, they just rip our uteruses out. That's what they did. And he's like, gross. Like, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me. And I like that they mention that, like they get it out there, right? Like this is what they did to these these women. They cannot have children because of this, but they try to make it not as, like someone, I think maybe it was Amanda or Elliot, I don't remember. Someone said, they're trying to keep it PG-13. They're not like, because it could have gotten a lot darker.
I read an interview today, and I think it might have been Variety. I can't remember where I read it, but they were talking about that specific scene, and like in an interview somewhere where they said that like Florence and Scarlett had read the script, and initially they were like, "Oh my God, like we don't want to like." Really, like we have to say this line, like, because he makes that joke, and they're like, this is like sexist or whatever. And then they decided to leave it in. And I think like Kate Shorten says something to the effect of like, all right, if you're going to leave it in, like, we're going to unleash Florence Pugh at you. Because that's why she's like, well, like this. And then they just rip your stuff out. And like she's like, we're just going to go for it if we're going to leave it in. Like, you're going to get it in the most clinical, like whatever way possible. And to me, that was like, this is why a woman directed this. Like that's when you could tell a woman directed this film.
Yep. Yes, that's great. I didn't realize that, but that makes total sense. And I love that because I think it was handled well. They brought it up and they got the point across, but like she's, what did she say? She goes, I was going to start talking about fallopian tubes.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. But then they find out that Melina's alive. So they didn't know. They thought she had died. And like you said, they say, we're going to make it. And then you see it fall out of the sky, which I think my whole theater was dying laughing at that moment. And then as they're walking, what's he say? He's like,
he's asking about Captain America.
Has he talked about me? She's like, this is what you're going to say to me? I hate you. And then we lead into that family reunion, and she's standing there holding the gun. And so what do you guys think about that moment, Chris?
Yeah, the intro scene, I guess, to the family. I guess we'll talk about the dinner in a second. But yeah, I thought the Captain America joke was funny and realistic for this narcissist. And I was just kind of trying to figure out, like, okay, what are we doing with these pigs? Like, why is this a thing? And then I always think in these kind of movies, like, damn, like even Fast and the Furious, like in Fast 9, like, how do they find these people? Like, they live in these like remote, deserted ass places, and they're like, they always keep their guns because like you never know who's gonna show up. Like, how do they even find you? But yeah, we'll get to the dinner scene, but that's one of my favorite scenes. But as far as the pre, I'm cool with that too.
What did you think, Amanda?
Again, like David Harbour, just like that dad that just has to ask the most random questions. And like I was like just watching him, like, of course you would. Of course, like that's the first thing that's gonna come into your head. But again, like their dynamic, the three of them was really great. And then that intro to, Melina and like everyone reunited, and then the dinner scene was like awesome, as Chris said. So, but that little like walk to Melina, I was just dying. Like he's hilarious. So he's like the typical dad, even though he's not technically the dad. But anyways, yeah.
It's great. And he's like, what did I do? Like, he has no clue. He's like, he just really wants to know if Captain America talks about him. That's all he wants to know.
Yeah.
Ren, what do you think?
This was the type of humor from Red Guardian that worked for me because he's so oblivious about what he did wrong and he's so narcissistic. It's all about him. And then when the girls confront him about it, he's like, "You became the two most effective killers of the Soviet Union. I am so proud of you." That really worked for me. And then he talks about, "You became an Avenger," and that's the stuff that, because he's so off his rocket, he's so looking at from the wrong angle. He doesn't really get it. The intro to Melina I really love. She's got a firearm that's triple the size of Rachel Weisz, so kudos to her for carrying it. Yeah, this whole setup leads to, and I'll say the same as Chris, perhaps my favorite scene in the entire film right up next.
Yeah, it's a good scene. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that in more detail. But James, what did you think of this lead-in to the family reunion?
I was like trying not to laugh too loud because it's a press screening. There's like 15 people there, and if you're the only person laughing that loud, it gets awkward. So I was like compartmentalizing a lot of my laughter, but I thought it was a really effective scene. However, this is a scene in a film like this that could totally derail a film if not, like, if you didn't have the right personnel. So like, if not for David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, and everybody else, then I feel like their talent like elevated this scene to the next level, because the words on the paper were one thing, but I think they added their own flair to that scene, and it really proved that, hey, this is a movie that can go ahead and deliver conversations and still keep with the momentum and not necessarily slow anything down, because I've seen it before in some earlier MCU movies where the conversations that are being had are a little boring, and you can tell the supporting characters don't necessarily have a lot of staying power, but each and every bit of dialogue here never felt wasted, and I absolutely loved how they paced the scene and where it came at the time of the film.
Yeah, I think it's so good. And this is where, again, like you said, it could have easily dropped off here, and it didn't. It just got better. Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, no, this is kind of brings me back to Avengers, Age of Ultron. Our Avengers just got their ass handed to them by Ultron. They go to Clint's farm to kind of regroup, and this kind of reversing this to them having this family reunion, right? They need the family to take on the Taskmaster and the rest of the Black Widow. So I thought it was really kind of cool to see them kind of regroup, and having the two girls see their pseudo mom for the first time in a long time, and just that anxiousness. And I thought that David Harbour kind of subconsciously, as their dad, is let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let me ask about the Captain America just to kind of cut the tension a little bit. So, but it does make me wonder in regards to this question. Yeah, I wonder if Steve was aware of him, and I wonder if there are other Russian Captain American-ish type of characters. Did someone replace him when he was in jail for however long he was? So he does have a valid question. But no, I love that the family kind of comes back together, and obviously we'll talk about the dinner scene. But no, it was just really kind of cool to see them finally coming home.
Yeah. What did you think, Leo?
I feel like if somebody asked Steve, "Do you know the Red Guardian?" he'd be like, "Who?" I mean, it's funny. I love the exchanges between these characters, and they just have such a good dynamic on screen together. I thought it was funny, and I think David Harbour just like hugging them was funny, a funny way to try to break some tension. And I enjoyed it. It was a nice kind of precursor to what was going on. I thought the tension when they see Melina and that's everybody's just staring was such a cool moment. And then David Harbour, of course, cuts right into that. So really well done. It just establishes their characters and just shows us how they've all been throughout that big long gap of not seeing each other. And the interaction was like really good, because if they had just stumbled upon Melina and didn't have anything to say, wouldn't make much sense. But that gaping stare of just like seeing like, wow, my pseudo mom actually survived what looked like her being gunned down earlier in the movie. Really well done.
Yeah, because moments before they just found out on the helicopter. They had totally thought she was dead. So Not only now do they know she's alive, they have to go see her. So Andrea, what did you think of this lead up to one of the best scenes in the movie?
I loved it. I thought it was like with a lot of scenes in this movie, and like the pacing was right, the scene was right. Like we didn't need a huge, scene of them reuniting, because we get that essentially in the next scene, in the dinner scene, but like we just needed enough to like, oh, like you're here and like I'm seeing you again. This is kind of weird and awkward, and then of course, like instead, David Harbour like breaks that ice, like, oh, hey, like my hot wife again. But I don't know, but I loved it. I think like this thing with this movie specifically and the scene, and you see it in these family scenes and we see it in like the Natasha and Elena scenes, but like everyone in this cast is just so perfectly cast and everyone is so good that like it was what, like a 2-minute scene or like a 1-minute little, segue, and you felt and saw like everything from their expressions and like the way they were standing and the way they, you know, and like their little like nods towards each other. And so we got so much out of that. And I thought it was the perfect, you know, we don't need a whole thing about like, I'm seeing you again. And, you know, where did you come from? And, you know, all we needed to know was that like, this is going to be a very awkward family reunion. And it was.
It definitely was. And I love how, you know, they're at the table and, you know, David Harbour and Rachel, well, I should say Melina and Alexi there are just like, he's like, I have a lot of energy. And she's like, and, you know, you got fat, but you're still good, you know, and
the kids are like, oh God, please stop. Please.
Yeah. And they're just like, no. But I love the whole scene, all the moments of that part, you know, where, poor Yelena is just sitting here. Her heart is breaking this whole conversation as they're like, we're not even really a family, you know, but then you also get them telling Nat to sit up straight. Like it was just such a good mix of like a heavy actual conversation and ridiculous humor. You know, you don't know if you want to laugh or cry during the whole
It's so true to like real relationships and real like families, right? Like you don't sit there in like a real family and have, maybe you do, I don't know, and like have like a super intense conversation. Like it, you know, it yo-yos so much back and forth between like, you know, the emotion and the humor and the, you know, and the jokes. And I love that.
It's so great.
Tessa, can I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so what you said actually reminded me of the one thing I thought of in the film in that moment. I said to myself, wait a second, outside of Scarlett Johansson, I think Florence Pugh's character is the most three-dimensional character of the entire film. Like, she has the most layer and depth to her. And I was surprised by that because I genuinely was, like, staying away from a lot of the rumors of her being in Hawkeye. And then I thought, okay, this is going to be a Black Widow-centric, this is just Natasha's movie. But it was in this moment that I thought, oh, they're definitely propping her up to be, like, the next face for, like, this new age of Marvel.
Yeah, and I'm so glad because I can't wait for more. But I know, Chris, you said this was one of your favorite scenes or favorite scene. So what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, definitely. If not my favorite, yeah, it's up there. I thought the humor was realistic. The I just got out of jail stuff, and then of course I'm like, damn, are they gonna make out? I just want to see people make out. But the moment that caught me slipping was when Yelena said, like stop, like it was real to me, like, and I was like, oh, like people can see me, like I might, if I blink at the right moment, like it's not going to be good. So I was very touched by that moment, and the testament was like, this girl is so funny. I've been laughing at her the whole movie, and it's like, you're the one that made me like have the emotional moment in the film. I'm like, damn, like that's like range, like that's to James' point. It's like Shrek. It's like she's got layers.
Yeah, I love that part, you know, and then she gets up and walks away, and it's the whole thing is so great. So Amanda, what do you have to say about that dinner scene?
I thought it was great. It's one of the best scenes in the entire film. But again, like we're praising Florence Pugh. That dinner scene is what really just elevated her performance, like that, like her character, in that moment, because I felt like, and I hate saying this, but like in that dinner scene, I felt like Scarlett Johansson was kind of playing it like a bit down, and then even like Rachel Weisz wasn't like at the same level as Florence, but David Harbour was in that way, in his own way. So just she stood out in that scene, and then she carried the second half, in my opinion. So I think that it just showed how strong of an actor Florence is, and how blessed we are to have her in the MCU moving forward.
Yeah, I absolutely love her. And then there's even that one line she says, like, I didn't even say anything. That's not fair, because they're, you know, so I thought she was fantastic in this moment. And Ren, what do you have to say about it?
It's my favorite scene in the entire film. Not only me, but most of us talked about the car scene, and I really felt like a little sister and a big sister, Bonnie. This felt like a real family interaction. The youngest in the family being the most quiet one. I'm the youngest in my family, so I relate to that. Scarlett still being all business. Then one of the parents is just happy that the family is finally together and wants to relax and celebrate, while the other parent is all business too. And we see also a similarity between a mother and daughter. We see the youngest daughter and the father are the ones that are most emotional. So they have the bigger bond between the two of them. I just think it's a beautiful scene. The humor works. The drama works. When Florence has her explosion and she's tired of listening to everything having been a lie. That was the only thing she knew. And we see earlier, before they take the car, that she made up this entire story for her family, for her sister, for her parents, who they are. And this entire reunion is taking away, even if it was a lie, it was the only thing she ever knew about what love and nurture and having a family is, and being normal and being a happy person is. I thought it was incredibly profound, incredibly beautiful. The animal cruelty in the middle of that scene triggered me a bit, but that's a personal thing, not the movie's fault. They were making a point, and they made that point really well. But the family dynamic just shows the power of the MCU when it comes to character and Kate Shortland's beautiful direction.
Yeah, it's such a powerful scene, and they said Alexi had 11 more seconds that could have lived, so that's good. But you're right, it was pretty cruel. James, what did you think?
Yeah, so just to add to what I said earlier, I mean, that scene is amazing, don't get me wrong, but there's one thing in retrospect that I wish we would have got more of, and I do wish we would have got more of like Rachel Weisz and like a solo moment with her, just maybe like a little bit of a monologue, just something, because I almost feel like she's the most supporting character of the lead cast, if that makes any sense. I don't feel like she got a lot of shine in this film compared to everyone, one of our leads, but I do think that the scene overall is really effective, and it just really like brings across the message of the film, where it's like, we're not all action, like, hey, we have scenes that'll ground us. And I think that the dialogue was great, the writing was awesome, and like what Ren said, Kate Shortland, I don't know what it is, but like this is like her standout film, even though I know she's been in the industry for a while, but man, she's so excellent in this film.
Yeah, oh man, so good. Elliot, what do you think about this whole dinner scene?
Yeah, no, it was definitely the most emotional scene in the movie, and this kind of speaks to, you know, my biggest criticism with the movie, as far as like feeling more of a Yelena's like emotional thread more so than did Natasha, and even her send off. This is that perfect example to kind of show you that seeing where she came from the Red Room. As you guys had mentioned, the only thing she knew from happiness was that 3-year stint that she had with her fake family, and everything else for the rest of her life has been assassin, kill, mission. So to me, I really kind of felt that for Yelena, and I think it was either Amanda that brought it up. I wish it would have been the reverse. I wish it would have been more of the Natasha's moment of like not having this family and having a search for her family, which ultimately becomes the family she didn't know she needed, which ended up being the Avengers. So again, the word of the film is, you know, Yelena, she stole the film, this and the other. And I think this is a perfect example of, you know, my biggest issue is I literally felt like at times Natasha could have been yanked out of the story, and it could have just been Yelena's story. And this is a perfect example of that, you know, her still in that scene.
Yeah, she really does steal that scene. And even when she's not talking, you know, as everyone else is talking, just her face and just her actions are just, oh, she's so good. What did you think, Leo?
Yeah, I was going to actually pick up off that and say like her expressions were just incredibly visceral in this scene. Like as soon as she says like, it was real to me, it was real. It felt real. Don't say that. It broke the scene up because, you know, you had this balance of funny, catching up, ScarJo really going in, just kind of rang it back and really made them realize it felt real. It seemed like a real family interaction. And I love that piece. I didn't like the pig part. I thought that was a little bit too harsh on that poor little piggy, but I think that this really brings us into retrospect of how these characters feel around one another. And it felt like a real family argument. It was really well written and amazingly delivered by the entire cast. I do agree with what someone said about Rachel Weisz not getting enough. I think that she needed a beat or two more just to kind of catch us up with how she's feeling with all this. I feel like we didn't get a lot of that throughout the movie. She just kind of plopped right in, and it would have been nice to see mentally where she's at, because she was last we saw her, she got nearly took out.
Yeah, and then right then too, she had just found out. She didn't know Yelena was one of the ones that was indoctrinated there, you know, because they even asked, and she's like, I didn't know, you know. So Andrea, do you have more thoughts? I know you talked a little bit about this scene, but
yeah, a little bit. I mean, just to kind of like reiterate what I was saying before, that I think like everyone, this was one of my favorite scenes in the film, and a part of that was obviously just because it was just such a, I don't even have words to describe like how good it was. It was just the emotion and the realness of it. You know, you really felt like this was like a real family having these discussions, and then, you know, Yelena, and this was like Manny said, I mean, you saw, you know, Florence kind of throughout up until this point, you saw a little bit like you could tell she was kind of, I don't want to say stealing the show, but you could tell that, you know, she was kind of becoming more and more prominent. You were paying more attention to her. But I feel like this scene is where she really just kind of drove that home when her whole breakdown and, you know, this was real to me. And also, I mean, I love the fact that at the core of the story, this is a sister story. It's a story about women. It's a story about sisters. It's a story about, you know, family, and all of that came through so much in this scene. And I just loved it. It's funny because it's a scene I think we've seen the most of, and like for anyone that watched trailers and like clips and stuff, like they kept showing it, or they showed it like Comic-Con, whatever. So even though like a bunch of people have already seen it, it still managed to hold that weight. Like even though it wasn't new, you know, quote unquote.
Right. Yeah. It was one of the most important scenes in it. Like you said, even though we've seen so much of it, still all together really ties everything together. Especially as we lead into, you know, you've got Yelena and Red Guardian having their little conversation, and then you've got Nat and Melina having their conversation, and even, you know, they realize that Nat sees the photo book and talks about, I remember when we shot this, we did all these different things in one day. I knew there were no presents under the tree. There was nothing. I still wanted to open every box, you know, and it brings a lot of heart to that. And you hear about her mom, where she tells her, you weren't thrown away. Like, in fact, your mom kept trying to find you, and he killed her. Like, sorry.
It's even more like heartbreaking.
It is. And you just watch her like, what? And she's trying to process all that, because all her life she thought, well, I was thrown away like trash and this and all this other stuff. And she's realizing like that's not the case. And then Melina's like, oh, by the way, I called the Red Room. And so in this moment, you're thinking like, you know, we don't know, obviously, that they had this whole plan that they're doing. So in this moment, it was just like, wow, okay, so that's where they're going. So Chris, what did you think of these after moments of that family dinner?
Yeah, I thought that was a very realistic moment, because I was like, damn, because she acts like, how did you like learn to care? How did you get a heart? And then she's like, I already called him, like I'm built like that. I was like, damn, like she's like a real savage. Like, I mean, I like that it was a twist. I appreciated that. But I was like, damn, like this is a good moment. And I love the humor in the other room with the, like, you know, I closed the door because I didn't want to talk to anybody. And just having that awkward dad moment who doesn't really know how to like relate to his kid, much less his female daughter. So I thought that was a really, really well done stuff.
Yeah. Amanda, what did you think?
I love the dynamic between Florence Pugh and David Arbor. I'm so close with my dad, so just having them together in one room and having those conversations, even though they may be hard or emotional, like I gravitated more towards them. So I love that. But then you see like the heart between like Melina and Natasha, like there was something there, but like, again, Rachel played it very reserved because obviously she did call the Red Room, but I just feel like I wanted so much more from Rachel Weisz as Melina that I just didn't quite get it. But in that moment, like you saw how much love there was from Natasha and Scarlett with those family memories. So it was cool to see that contrast, but my heart is with like Yelena and Alexei for sure. Yeah.
How about you, Red? Oh, you're muted.
He's on mute.
Sorry. To me, these moments between father, younger daughter, mother, older daughter are an extension of what we saw at the dinner table. I think they're both beautiful because to Alexei, we see that he doesn't really know how to be a dad, especially after everything they've told him today about what they actually did in the Red Room. He's trying to bring her back closer to him because they always had this bond, and now her entire life and her beliefs have been shattered because she was just a job. Then on Melina's part, we see that she actually has some humanity to her because we see the book that she told Natasha, no, don't bring it, leave it. And she brought it. It's here. But even with the I Call the Red Room, they're coming. They should be here any minute. It's a punch to the gut because we just got that human moment. But I love these little interactions. I think they're what solidifies our rooting for the characters in this big third act sequence.
Yeah, and James has to go after this. So after you talk about this little bit, just why don't you give your overall thoughts, if you have anything else you want to say about the rest of the movie, and then where everyone can find you before you head out.
For sure, for sure. So I actually really love the scene between Alexei and Yelena because for me, even though like my relationship with my own father, it exists, but it's not as like deep as that, I would say. However, in that moment, I placed myself in Alexei's shoes, and I was like, if I ever have a daughter one day, like, oh my gosh, the lengths he went in that little moment, even to remember the song, and just she kept saying, "Get out of
Yeah.
the room, get out, get out." And he was like, I can't like just let her be by herself. Like I need to try and make that attempt because it's now or never. And I loved that moment so much. That was probably the closest I got to crying in the film. And then on the other side, the parallels between Melina and Natasha, I almost felt like Melina betraying them. That my level of distrust was really high for her in that moment. And that's when I thought, okay, she might be Taskmaster, but is it too obvious that she's making that character turn? So I liked both of those conversations, and I liked how even though they were so different, they were so similar. So I loved it so much.
I was like convinced she was Taskmaster. I really was. So I was like a genuine surprise with the reveal later on. But James, before you go,
Sure.
anything else you want to say about what comes later in the movie? You can just give your opinions if there's anything you want to talk about, or just let everyone know where to find you.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't want to take too much away from everyone else's opinions, but what I will say is the third act in this film, it is the weakest part of the entire film. My goodness, it just felt so different from the entire movie. To me, acts 1 and 2, grounded, very, very much a spy thriller, and the third act was like, hey, oh yeah, we have a CGI budget, let's use that. And then everything became way too big, and the movie tried to be way bigger than itself, and I didn't think that was the reach they should have went for. Maybe they should have literally kept it on the ground and it would have felt more impactful, but they were in the sky, and it just added another layer that I didn't think was necessary. However, it did end on a sweet note, and I love the post-credits scene, and this is the first time I think we've seen it in a film that they tie back to the MCU TV shows, so it just makes it all that more real, and people hopefully will go back and watch the show if they haven't and see exactly where Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character comes into play. So yeah, Tessa, I really loved it, and I really love just talking with all of you guys. I'm sorry I have to bounce early, but I hope to see you guys.
It's not even really early. We've just been talking for 2 hours, so don't.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. But you guys can find me on YouTube. Just search Real James, REL James, and you can just find all my reviews, all my reactions, and we talk a little bit of news as well. So again, guys, thank you so much, and I can't wait to hopefully tune in while I'm doing whatever I have to do. It's like grown-up stuff, so I'll tune in on my iPad.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to come here, and I feel like we hadn't seen each other in so long, so we'll have to talk again soon. I'm going to try to get something together for the end of Loki, so I'll talk to you about that.
For sure. That sounds great. Love you guys.
Take care, James.
Bye, James.
Take care, man.
Bye,
So I know. Bye. So Elliot, why don't you talk about that? Those moments, where there's father-daughter and mother-daughter having their separate conversations.
Yeah, the father-daughter conversation to me was the strong point in those after moments of the dinner, because MCU and just fathers and daughters, Hank and his relationship with Hope and Thanos and Gamora and Nebula and just so many of those threats going on there. So I love that Alexei goes in there and it shows you that when we saw him at a younger age, he seemed to not care. It was just a mission. I just wanted to be the Red Guardian. I want to go to the next mission. But it showed that he did pay attention because he remembered that song. So it did mean something to him, which kind of brings it back home that this was a family unit, right? Even though they were assassins, it was very much, if you guys ever watched FX, The Americans, they had a goal, but they had love for one another. So that kind of really stood out to me. And then the Melina moment, the biggest thing I took away from that was Natasha hearing about her mom, which I thought actually it was going to be that the mom was maybe a Taskmaster potentially and brainwashed into being the Taskmaster. But obviously she's dead now. We'll never know who his mother was, or maybe she's not dead. Maybe she's, I don't know, what's her name? Valentina. And she doesn't remember who her kid is, man. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I thought that was a really cool moment to kind of hear her mom fought for her. And that's where she gets that fighting spirit from, is her mother. So, but again, like I said, the biggest moment for me was Alexei, that he did care about the family by remembering that song that his daughter loved, or his pretending daughter loved.
Yeah, after he just constantly kept saying, I was just stuck in this place that I didn't care about, and it was a chore.
Exactly.
But Leo, what do you have to say about those moments?
I gotta say, when Ren said it was a gut punch when Rachel Weisz said that, I felt that hit, my man, because that's how I was feeling. I was like, really? We just had these great moments with these characters, spoke to them as a family, and she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I called the police, y'all. See ya. Like, I was just kind of like, really? I thought that was going to be a Taskmaster reveal, and then Taskmaster walks into the shot right across from her. It's like, oh, JK, guys, that's not the Taskmaster. I think they could have drugged that out a little bit and made us wonder just a little bit more, but is what it is. Still love both of the interactions. I loved Alexi's story of being out ice fishing with his father and his father having to urinate on his hands. Crazy, but at the same time, it is a dad just trying his best. Like, look, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to try to get you out of this mood, and I'm going to try to bring in some positive energy. And I thought that it was really good transition when he was singing, and then boom, the light comes right on right after he says die. Like, yeah. Okay. I for a second I was like, are they all going to make it out of this here? Because wow, that was bad. Just poof, light right on right after die. That's a lot, but good scene, great interactions, nice emotional connections between the characters, because like we were saying a little bit earlier, the dynamic lends to Natasha and Rachel Weisz's character, and then David Harbour and Yelena kind of lends to those four connections, but split up in that way. And so it was well done up until Melina said, I already called the red room. Like, man, what? That threw me out of it for a bit.
Me too, because I was like, you guys were getting along so well. Why did you go ahead and call the red room? What's going on here? So Andrea, what did you think about that post-dinner, those two moments, those two conversations?
I loved it. Sorry, I feel like my answer to everything is going to be like, I loved it before I...
It's fair.
I'm just
very fair.
that I don't mean to keep repeating it. That's just like a natural response. But I thought it was a really great way to... Because I know we were all talking about, like, you know, you kind of wish there was more between like certain characters, or that Melina had like a little more, you know, or whatever. But I thought that those scenes were really good in kind of honing in on like, the family dynamic, explaining, like, we had those quiet moments where, like, you know, we really saw, you know, Alexei and Yelena kind of grapple with like what their past had been, because they're the two people I think that have been like more affected than anyone else. Like for Yelena, it was like, this was real. This was, you know, I was so into this, and like this was a real thing to me, and no one cared. And for Alexei, it's like, I hated this. Like this was, you know, I think they were the two like most aware of how that, even though if they weren't like aware at the time, but that's how like that dynamic was. And so I love that they got to talk about it. And then, you know, like I feel like Natasha at the time in 1995 was a little older, and I always felt I don't think it's confirmed anywhere in the film, but like I always felt like she knew more. You know, she knew, and she says, I think, like, I don't want to, like, don't make me go back there, or I don't want to go back there, like that when they're getting in Cuba, kind of implying that like she knows that this is not her normal life, but you know, she's kind of thought that it was. And I feel like Melina have always had that connection of like being the kind of the wiser, more logical, like people in the family. So I thought those connections worked really well. I love that we got to explore them. I love that, you know, we got Natasha with kind of a mom figure, which we've never really, like, we've never had, and she didn't really, and then she's talking about how she didn't have her mom, you know, because she thought her mom gave her up, and it was just, I thought it added so much kind of foundation and nuance to this whole family in it. And it really, I thought, we'll talk about this later, but like, I thought it really paid off for kind of the end, and when they really all kind of come together, like you felt that it wasn't just random. It's like based on those conversations. Oh, like you felt it. You felt like this was a genuine kind of evolution of the way this family connected.
Yeah. And then I think she does say at the beginning in Cuba, she says something like, when she says she's only 6, I think Alexei says
you were even younger. So
yeah. So definitely she had been a part of it when she was even younger. So I think from being a baby, it sounds like from what we learned that her, you know, she was tested as a child, and they found out she had genes that they wanted. And but so then we end up, the red room comes. They end up going up to the red room. That's how he's been hiding all this time. That's why no one could ever find him. And then, you know, we obviously, Nat and Melina have changed places, which you don't know at first. Although I will say, I was like, something's up with Melina. Like something is weird here, like her dynamic. And especially when he's like touching her, she's like making weird faces. And I was like, I couldn't figure that out. Was it just being a woman being under his control? I'm not sure. So we have that whole thing, plus the Taskmaster reveal, which made me super angry. But let's talk about that whole part before we get into the major action of what happened in the red room. So why don't you go first, Chris?
Like this, the reveal of like the Switch and all that, or
Yeah. Well, like the reveal of the Switch and the reveal of who Taskmaster is, and
yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I didn't see the Switch coming. I at some point in the movie, and I'm really not good at predicting things, and like I don't even try to do it, but like I was at some point I was like, they made a big deal about how like, oh, are you sure that you killed him? Like, are you sure he like you ended this? So like when they said that, I was like, maybe she didn't kill the kid. So I thought about that as soon as I made that connection. I thought that the Switch technology was cool, and I was just happy that fucking Melina wasn't a bad guy. So I was like, I was just relieved that we're back on it. We're back. We can make this family thing work in the end. So I was cool with it. Yeah.
what did you think, Amanda?
I love the Switch. It kind of reminded me of what happened with her and the Winter Soldier with the whole base thing. Good nod back. So I was really happy about that. The whole Red Room scenario, Dreykov, like I thought it was really cool how they did that, and it was a great scene again for Nat, push it forward. But yeah, it was good stuff until the Taskmaster reveal, and
I want to know your thoughts on that because I think you're with me.
It's just that Taskmaster is such a cool character. He's such a cool character. We could have used him in like any other like phase 1 or phase 2 or even like obviously phase 3, anything before Black Widow, we could have used him. If you're going to just throw it away like that, kind of, I felt like it was just, we can't even bring him back unless someone else takes up the mantle. But it's like, I didn't like the reveal at all. It was just kind of weak. I thought if it were Melina, I think it would have been a bit stronger in that case, just because it was on the nose. I wouldn't have been kind of upset, even though it was on the nose if we did that. But yeah, I just felt very underwhelmed. It wasn't strong enough, that build up for me personally. And it's one of like the weakest villains in the MCU for me, like that reveal. But leading up to it, it was good at the action, everything like great. And then bam, you just kind of did that. And I was like, oh, so we're just going to get a random fight scene with this said person that just doesn't work for me. But it also felt, and I've noticed this with phase 4, especially with like WandaVision and Falcon and now with Loki, the villains are very contained to that specific person, like those characters, that universe that they create for those shows or films. So at the end of the day, it's like, it's what it is in that case, but I'm just disappointed with how and why they chose to do that.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see more Taskmaster, like maybe part of the Thunderbolts or coming back or Dark Avengers or something. Yeah. And the fact that Taskmaster is now quote unquote cured, we're not going to get that. Unless someone else takes it, probably. It seems like Ren might have some theories going on in his brain. And that's what disappointed me about Taskmaster was, oh, so that's probably going to be it for Taskmaster, just because I love Taskmaster. But Leo, how did you feel about the Switch reveal and the Taskmaster reveal?
Well, the Switch reveal was awesome because I had no idea that was coming, so I loved it. I was like, yes, cool callback to Winter Soldier. Thought it was done well because just like the characters in the movie, we had no idea. So awesome job, Marvel. Taskmaster. Yeah, I really like Anthony Masters in the comics. So when I saw Taskmaster kind of acting all cyborgy, I was thrown off immediately. And I think that was an okay change because it did make him a larger than life character. It did lend to making him much bigger than the other her much bigger than the other characters. Then you had that reveal, and y'all, I'm not even playing. I literally was like, oh, okay, because like when the mask was coming off, it was like there was so much anticipation. Who is it? Oh my goodness, is it maybe Nat's mom? Yeah, I was thinking maybe something like that. Then when it's his daughter, that just really took away from it. Just like the Power Broker reveal, it was just not executed that well. And I think it actually would have meant a lot more to me personally had she had a small line of dialogue in Winter Soldier, Civil War, any of them talking about this experience. Then we see it in the movie, then she's revealed. But I think the fact that it just all happened in one movie just took away from it. Like, it would have been cool if maybe this had been brought up in Winter Soldier, back around in Civil War, just the story of her killing the daughter. And then we actually see it in the Black Widow movie. Then you have it revealed that it's the daughter. Then it's a plot thread through the MCU that we followed for a little while. But the fact that it's just dumped right into the story doesn't really work for me. Also, we don't really even see him copying moves that much. I think it would have been cool if there were some scenes of him like spying on spying on the Avengers and actually copying and being up close and seeing their movements. Like Civil War, that was a perfect opportunity for her to go covert and just look and study and see all the different moves. But instead, it's kind of just like, oh, I'm gonna pop this USB right in the back of your head, and you can juice up all the moves all you want. So yeah, just Taskmaster wasn't it for me.
Well, that's great you said that, because Ren sent me something today that I would like him to talk about, because this was something I didn't even notice. It was super interesting, and it's a great lead-in. So go ahead, Ren.
Yeah, but before I say some actual positives that I do have to say about Taskmaster, yes, it is an underwhelming reveal. Right as the credits come in at the beginning, I said Olga Kurylenko. I'm like, okay, that's Taskmaster. They showed the daughter that we don't actually see die, and I'm like, okay, that's Taskmaster. And so when the mask comes off, I'm like, yep, okay, now what? But it was actually Zach, our friend Zach, who sent it to me, because back in the first Avengers, when Loki is in that cage and he's messing with Black Widow, trying to poke at her insecurities, he says, you got too much red on your ledger, and he literally says, Dracov's daughter, and we see a reaction from Natasha back in the first Avengers movie. Now, I want to say that when this reveal came in, felt very underwhelming. And like you guys, I love the character of Taskmaster in the comics. I think he's incredibly complex and interesting. I have two things to say about this. Number one, I think Taskmaster may very well return. The helmet is left on the ground where they crash land. Someone can pick that up and do whatever they want with it. They adapt a skull mask. They maybe now have a cape and use all the arrows and be more comic accurate. That's why I like that they separate a lot between who Antonia actually is and who the Taskmaster monster creature thing is in this film. And I think there is a very functional purpose to Taskmaster, because thematically, I think Taskmaster actually serves the story greatly. In the movie that thematically is all about Natasha running from her past, this is literally her past coming back to haunt her. I think it also puts Natasha in an incredibly interesting moral compromise, because the fact that this is Dracov's daughter, now Natasha doesn't want to kill her. So this third act is emotionally complex and difficult for Natasha, because now she's got to make a very tough choice. She just wants to kill Taskmaster, then fine, it's easy to do it. If she actually wants to save Taskmaster, I think it's much more interesting. I would say this to actually, and I don't mean to say that this is any 100% fix for the film. I have the benefit of hindsight. The filmmakers, when they were writing the film, they didn't. I would add little flashbacks through Natasha's perspective that she had this young girl when she was in the Red Room that she looked after and she cared for, because Natasha had also lost her sister. And this little girl was then Dracov's daughter, who she had to kill to end the Red Room, because the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few, and she would solidify her position as S.H.I.E.L.D. It would reinforce that personal connection between hero and villain, and it would connect back to all this actual evil that is going on with the lives of these young girls being taken away.
You need more build there. The fact that it was just one flashback and then there's our villain of the movie.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Help.
Instead of the one flashback, maybe she's haunted through the rest of the film, and she has these quick flashes when maybe she looks at Yelena and how far Yelena's come, and she remembers that little girl that she actually looked after, but then had to give the order to kill.
Yeah, that's really. See, Ren, this is why you should write these things like that. That's really fair points.
I'm up for hire.
Before we move on to Elliot, real quick, Amanda's got to go. So why don't you just real quick let everyone know where to find you? No, you're fine. We're rambling on for very, very long. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Amanda.
I'm sorry. but no, this was so much fun. I love doing these deep dives. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Tessa, for having me. If you guys do not subscribe to any of these people, please. They are amazing content creators. And James, go subscribe to them. Please like, comment, do everything. These guys are amazing, and I love them. Guys can always find me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. My website is candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube is Candid Cinema. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a blast.
Of course, I'm so glad you were able to join. And every single person that's here's links are in the description, so don't worry, guys. But thank you for joining, Amanda, and we'll see you at the next one.
Bye, guys. See you.
Thor Ragnarok.
Take care, Amanda.
So, Elliot.
Yeah.
This whole, Twitch, Taskmaster. What do you guys?
Yeah, Taskmaster. I mean, I'm not gonna. You guys already. I mean, it was pretty disappointing for me. Going back to the whole Winter Soldier things, they should have just did the reveal halfway through the film because it was just so underwhelming. It could have just been Yelena could have revealed that Dreykov's daughter is still alive in a moment like that, or when they're fighting on the bridge and her helmet again, Winter Soldier type of moment. Because when we get that, it just felt first off. It's a superhero movie, sometimes you got to throw away logic, but just like how the hell did both of them even survive that explosion by not only one Avenger, but two Avengers? Clint and Natasha are assassins that we've established. How did they muck this up? How did they not? And also too, just makes me think kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird in my head that she was willing to kill a little girl, that kind of puts in like, this is my hero killing kids. It was just kind of a weird economy, that whole thing being set up. And then speaking of logic, we talked about it off screen. The actress who's revealed to be Taskmaster is literally older than Natasha. And it's just like, wait, what? How is this 6-year-old or however old she was when she got exploded? How did she grow up it was just, the whole setup to me was just kind of very mishandled in my personal opinion. Now, as far as it was the whole build up to it was just such the air was just sucked out of the room. But as far as just like redeeming the character, as Marvel has, that's the beauty of Marvel. They can literally go back and have a Thor Dark World be in the end game. They can have characters that Abomination kind of have his moment, and Shang-Chi and She-Hulk. So they have these opportunities to get these characters back in the forefront. And as we know from Loki, there's another Taskmaster, another multiverse that can make its way into the main timeline, or another Black Widow, behind the scenes type of situation that we can get a redemption of a sorts. But I would imagine that they're going to use this actress to be a part of maybe another series later down the road. And again, she's a very well-known actress. And you don't just cast someone. If we are going back to Marvel Phase 1 days where they kind of wasted a lot of their villains, I hope that we can see this character take on some new persona and again, have the Taskmaster be reclaimed by someone else in the future. Because again, Dreykov's daughter being Taskmaster in this canon to me is just very disappointing and just a letdown personally. But we'll see. But again, Ren brought it up. Thematically speaking, it does make sense. Essentially all of our heroes have created their own villains. Tony Stark created all the villains in the MCU, essentially, especially Spider-Man's villains. So it makes sense as far as MCU, which goes back to me at the beginning saying it's very formulaic. Them creating their own villains, creating their own demons of a sense. So it was just kind of like, can we do something original? Can we do something a little bit different? But yeah, I'm not a fan of that reveal at all.
Yeah. Andrea, what did you think about the Switch reveal? And then of course the Taskmaster reveal.
So the Switch reveal, I really liked. I did not see it. I should preface this by saying that I didn't see anything coming, and a lot of people I feel did. I thought the most obvious thing was that Melina was Taskmaster. I knew it wasn't Mason. That was way too obvious. And I did think it was a woman under there just because the movie had this whole theme of female, womanhood, female empowerment and all that. So I was I feel like they make, the villain a woman. But I guess, I don't know, the way I explained it to my friends is that I've normally for any Marvel film that I really care about, because there are some I care about more than others, usually the big Avengers films or whatever, I am so spoiler averse. I do not, and I work in the industry, which means I generally know things or I hear things, even when I don't want to, but I would go into movies being I don't want to hear any reactions. I'm worried someone on Tumblr is going to say something, I'm worried about seeing someone spoiler. So I've always turned myself off to speculating, mostly because anytime I've seen, I haven't wanted to know anything. I haven't wanted to know any spoilers. I've wanted to go in blind. This movie was weird because I had done the set visit for it. So I knew a lot of stuff. I knew, and I had done the set visit back in 2019, which was well before anyone knew anything. So then more stuff started to come out, the flashbacks and all that. And, as everything got delayed and they had to give out more content. But so I knew stuff, but obviously I didn't know a lot of stuff. So it was a weird place, like knowing things, and I wasn't so spoiler averse, but I still like didn't want to know things. So I think because I had that mindset, I didn't go into it trying to like guess who Taskmaster was, or know like who Taskmaster was, or know that, or think that Nat and Melina were switching places. I do love the way they did the Nat Melina reveal. I thought it was, I thought it was a good way to have kind of Natasha come face to face with Dreykov, and then I liked that they had Melina and Alexei had that little moment in the cell, and he was like, I just poured my heart out to you, and like, and we got like a little bit of them like being them, because I was like, oh, we didn't get enough of you like being kind of a couple, and I feel like that let us have a little bit more between them. I think I'm the only person on this chat who actually liked the Taskmaster reveal, who didn't find it. I will say that I'm not a comics person in the sense that I know the comics very well from that standpoint. I mean, I'm a big comic person. I'm a big, especially with Natasha comics, and everything like, Hawkeye, Black Widow. Like, I'm very like much a comic person, but not so much that like for me, Taskmaster was like not important from a comic perspective. Like, I didn't have any. So I get like where everyone is coming from in terms of like they love this character in the comic and they expected Mormon, and like it wasn't what they expected. Like for me, I didn't have those expectations, so I don't think it hit me as hard. But I actually really did enjoy the reveal because, like, people were saying it did, go back to Dreykov's daughter, and the whole kind of point of this movie is really Natasha's like, wiping the red out of her ledger and getting that redemption, and it. It ties into the fact that, she left Yelena, she left all these widows behind, she didn't know that she left them behind when she got out, and they were all, taken advantage of. And, she says to Antonia when she finds them when they're breaking out, like, I'm not going to leave you again, she like trying to right that wrong. And so I really liked it. I also kind of came from my personal kind of view of the whole situation is I never really saw Taskmaster as the villain, and I don't know if that makes sense, but like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, like, he's a weak villain because he's Taskmaster, and like he was the villain. I think Dreykov was kind of more the villain, but also I think the overarching villain for me, from like my personal standpoint of the movie, was like more of the villain was really kind of like, this trafficking and all the stuff that's happening to the girls, and, taking away your free will, and Natasha's, past being kind of laid out in front of her like that. So that's how I approached it. And that was kind of my feelings on it. But I also, I see where other people are coming from for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think for me, with Ren saying the helmet is there, someone can take this up. Like, it makes me feel a little better, because that's really the thing I hated most about it was like, is this it for Taskmaster? This is like all we're going to get, because Taskmaster's so cool and there's so much more we could get. But so then this leads into the whole, I loved the way Natasha was the whole sever the nerve and like, oh, you weren't strong enough to do it, so I'm going to have to do it myself. Just really, not only is she about to like really attack him, she's going to like, call him out that he's this weak guy. And when she's trying to get him to hit her, when it's easier against defenseless little girls. And I loved that exchange between her and Dreykov, and getting to actually like just throw some digs at him and seeing Natasha like that, which I love. And then of course she fights the widows, which finally we get some widow action. Although I would have liked to have seen more of them, a lot more of them, especially after that scene. You're like, that scene was so good. We could have gotten more. And then, she ends up saving Taskmaster, right? Letting her out, even though she knows that it's probably not good. She's going to come immediately after. And I think she says, you're going to come after me, but I'm going to let you out. So leading up into the moments of that, I know we're way over the time I thought we'd do. So we guys just want to talk about all those moments before we get to that big, like, falling through the sky CGI fest. Chris, if you want to go.
But before the CGI fest?
Before the CGI fest, right? So,
Okay.
like, if you have any thoughts on her fight with Dreykov and all that stuff.
I didn't know if it was cheesy, but personally, I was like, oh, that's impressive that, he made him so, like, she can't attack him or none of them can. So I was like, okay, I was like, it's weird that he would allow him to be alone with her. I was like, why would he, like, she'll kill you. So I thought that was a cool little trick. And I thought, her, severing the nerve, I was like, damn, that's painful. I would have just kept it in there and just died. But that's why I'm not an Avenger. But yeah, before we get to the last scene, we'll get into it. I agree 100% with James. I think that's the weaker part of the film, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest. So Chris, I did find it very cheesy, like the pheromones, like you can't tell. That was like a very like early James Bond type of villain, type of whatever you want to call it, self-defense mechanism thing. It just was really kind of weird to me. And I think Ray Winstone, who plays Dreykov, played it off better to me than the actual like screenplay of that character, because I thought Dreykov, if we're calling that the real villain, I still think that was kind of an underwhelming villain, especially. This is like a nitpick of mine when villains give you their whole plan and he shows her the whole map of like, why do you even have to do that? Like, I hate when movies do that. But either way, I guess it just goes back to there's still like Black Widows out there and they're still like programmed. So are they going to save those girls? Or I guess I'm still kind of confused on, did they really accomplish a goal and a mission? And not to nitpick again, but the whole him being the sky thing, like no one ever came across that layer there. Like, again, very James Bond, just like, okay, we're going to this level. But in regards to just that moment, again, I was just kind of underwhelmed. That whole scene and leading up into the sky fight, this is the weakest part of the film to me. It's just, we got to do it. We got to give you exposition. We got to let you know what we're doing. We got to show you our whole plans. We got to give you the reveal. It was very just like an afterthought type of play out for me personally.
Yeah, I think their plan is to go after, now they know where they all are and they've got a couple of vials and she'll ask someone to recreate it.
I hope so, because where have these Black Widows been forever? Where did Elena and Melina and Red Guardian and those other girls go? I hope they did. I hope that's the mission. I hope we learned that in Hawkeye, that's what she's been doing if she wasn't blipped for 5, which we'll have to talk about. But
yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Yeah. I assume anyway. Andrea, what do you have to say about this moment here? Nat versus Dreykov, basically.
So one of the things that I've been in like 16 group chats since for like 2 weeks. But one of the things I said to my friends yesterday, because I went to see it again yesterday, and I was like, I feel like I think of things that get me every time I see this film. And one of the things I said was that I don't think I've ever consciously thought about it when I watched, the previous Marvel movies, that, when she fights or when really any of them fight, it's just like pretty fighting, if that makes sense. Like, and it's like superhero film. Like, of course they're going to fight nicely and, they're not going to get super kind of intense or dirty or any of that. And I don't think I've ever like put together the fact that that's how it comes off until I watched this film and realized like they went there. I mean, she breaks her nose. She gets punched in the face like 16 times. They break up the widows, beat her up. I mean, this is like, and they really, with like her hair all messed up and, her suit ripped and all of that and the blood on her face. Like they really kind of went hard and not holding back in how kind of brutal she was treated. And it's so different from the way that other directors, writers have like placed her in other films. Even in like, even in Infinity War and, Endgame, well, she was fighting Endgame, but in my mind, she's in the final battle. She, like, not just her, but like pretty much anyone, they're just always like portrayed a certain way in this film. Really. So that's what I loved about this final scene in the scene with Dreykov, is that it was like so real. And I love that they took it to that level. I feel like that's so true for her character. That's so true for what this movie is kind of on the, in terms of the themes and everything that it wanted to be. So like the moment, and it still gets me. I've seen this movie 4 times in theaters. I will not say how many times. I've already watched it on Disney Plus, but like every time she does that, every time she does the nose break, it still gets me.
I hate when people do that.
Like I know it's coming, and it still makes me go,
You're just like, bam! You're like,
when she
pops it back.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, jeez. I don't know. And then even Yelena's like pop her arm back in for her, doesn't she? I don't.
Yeah,
it's just
when,
crazy after the widows.
the widow fight.
Oh,
It's like,
so-
like I said, I
yeah.
know you're an Avenger for a reason, and I'm clearly not.
That's
so.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Leo, what do you think about those moments leading up to the final falling, whatever it is?
So I have a question. Were the widows like looking on in Infinity War? Were they just looking from afar and just biting a hot dog like Tobey Maguire does in Spider-Man 2, saying, just let them handle it? Like
Eternals, they're
what
pulling
happened?
Eternals on us, man.
Yeah,
Sitting
like
and chilling.
they just sat back and said, well, that's Nat's work, so we're just gonna I don't know. I think the execution of the widows is a little funky, and I would like to see some more of them. So maybe in Hawkeye, they'll be with Florence. Who knows? Hopefully we'll see more. Dreykov, another suit, but executed more poor than the other ones. I mean, I thought it was totally like Robert Redford's character, but much worse, a little bit weaker. I did like Nat breaking and severing the nerve, but didn't really like this villain. I thought I just want more Taskmaster. Honestly, he could take Dreykov away from the movie completely, have him drop in the end a little bit, and it wouldn't be much different for me. I don't know. I just wasn't big on this scene, and this is where the movie starts to kind of fall apart for me a little bit. But would have liked more Taskmaster and more widows.
Yeah, what do you think?
Quick
Go
question
ahead,
too,
Elliot. Yeah.
just for the panel, and I know Andrea brought it up in regards to seeing the brutality of that moment, but I don't know, maybe it was just me, and this is just subconsciously thinking that I know she's not going to die. So I like all those moments happening of her getting beat up and her nose broke. I'm like, well, she's not going to die. So to me, it was just like almost empty calories because we know that she's going to survive an Endgame and all that. So to me, again, I can understand where Andrea's coming from in regards to seeing the brutality of that scene, but I'm just like looking at it, just like, well, I know she's going to be fine at the end of the day. I don't know if you guys felt that same way as well.
Yeah, well, it's funny because at my screening, before we were walking in, I was talking to someone, and I had already seen the movie, and someone joked like, "Don't spoil it," and then they go, "But how do you spoil a prequel?" And it was like, I mean, fair, right? Like, so I get exactly what you're saying. Like, yes, it was brutal, it was intense, but you're also like, I mean, she's gonna live, so like, you know, she's gonna live.
There's not a lot of stakes because you
Right.
just already
That's
know.
a great way to say, yeah.
Which is why I would have loved this movie after Civil War.
Yes.
Would have been
even the Yelena being announced to be in Hawkeye was back in December, so I even knew that she was going to survive out of the film. So it was just like the stakes, perfectly silly. I never really felt the stakes because I knew like most of the cast was going to make it out of the movie.
Well, anytime they showed the trailers, and they doctored the trailers really well. I mean, I know I never trust Marvel when it comes to trailers, but if I look back, they did so much of it really well. They clearly made it seem Yelena was going to die. And I was, every time I saw someone on social media being like, oh my God, they're going to kill Yelena. I think they're going to kill Yelena. I'm like, I just really wanted to laugh and be like, aside from the fact that she's been announced in the Hawkeye show, like, you do not cast one of Hollywood's like up and coming actors in anything just to kill her off. Like, she's not going to die. Like, maybe they'll make it think she dies and she'll come back in a post-credit scene, but she's not going to die.
Right, exactly. Ren, what did you think about those moments, the Widow fight and the Dreykov fight?
I like Black Widow emasculating Dreykov throughout the entire scene, and him proving her right by being a weakling and a coward and being a very brave man when he's hitting little girls. And I'm about to sound real annoying, but the pheromones thing really got me because that was an easy fix for it. It could still be an effect of his mind control. Yes, they have their control, but they still can't hit him. They can't act upon violence towards him. I think that would be a really interesting psychological deterrent to the Widow. Even if you have this miracle cure, it still doesn't cure 100% of what you went throughout those lots of years of indoctrination and being subjected to these experiments and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of cheesy. They clearly set up how there was going to be a base in the sky because in the beginning, Nat is watching Moonraker. And so I didn't notice, so it got me by surprise, but they totally did set that up. I like the Widow fight. The Widow fight is probably my third favorite fight in the entire movie. It's the opening scene with Taskmaster, the meeting Yelena fight, and then this one, because I thought it carried a lot of emotional weight for Nat. I thought they should have had it like individual shots of the widow's face as they were hitting her, because Natasha holds her own for the most part. It's really cool to see her. Yeah, you're widows too, but I'm the Black Widow. But eventually, obviously, there's so many, they will overwhelm her. And then we just have this one overhead shot of them hitting her one at a time. I thought it would be really interesting to see like a POV shot of Natasha and them hitting her feeling every blow, not only physically, but psychologically. And the nose popping thing. It's not even the breaking of the nose that bothered me. It's the popping in. Because I've been there. I've also been there with the shoulder thing. I had to do my own shoulder. I had to do my own nose. It's not fun. And the sound design on that.
Are you in an action movie? Your life is an action movie, man.
No.
John McClane.
It was the no. So the shoulder, I was doing wrestling at home, which they always say don't do this at home. I was doing it. And then the nose was handball. I was playing handball, and I got hit with a ball right in the face.
Jeez, bro. Are you sure you're not the White Ranger over here popping noses back in the place?
There's no helmet. I don't have my helmet here, Leo.
I know. You should have brought it with you. What are you thinking?
Doesn't fit in the suitcase.
That's so, I can't believe that. Right? The popping it back in place was so, no. But so then we lead into this giant, I mean, Yelena's like willing to sacrifice herself, right? Which I did really love that. Her whole, this was fun, even though you know she's not going to die because we know she's going to be in Hawkeye. And then they're falling from the sky and they used like their entire CGI budget while they're all falling from the sky. And so I don't know. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I did think the beginning of the movie was much stronger, and this moment was not one of the best fight scenes when usually you think the last one should be the best fight scene. But what is your take on it, Chris?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was definitely the weakest, and I was just like, all right, I got a suspension of belief a lot of this shit. But I just thought the movie was good enough that I was like, okay, like you're allowed to like, you know, I mean, like, yeah, you don't want to like end on a weak note, but I was like, they did so well. I just wanted to like, just take me to the end. Like, I know you guys have tried really hard here. So it didn't make me walk away thinking like, damn, the ending. I was just like, what a good movie, but the ending is not that good. So it just didn't ruin like my whole like experience at all. But it's clearly like just not that good.
Elliot, I know you got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, not the biggest fan of the ending. And even going back to Red Guardian versus Taskmaster, they cut away from that fight. That could have been a really epic fight, but they just
forgot about it just now.
It's just like this happened. It was like, oh, I guess he's okay. But yeah, again, the third act to me really does feel rushed. And I know too, they mentioned that Tait, that I think it was Taika Waititi and the Russo brothers kind of came in and helped out on some of the post-production of the film. And I don't know if that's some of that flavor that, again, she wasn't able to have her full through line and really kind of put her stamp and submit that this is her film. And they had cooks in the kitchen type of thing. And again, it was probably helpful because, again, it's her first big budget. I think a lot of Marvel films, they all kind of help each other out throughout the editing process and the final production of the film. But to me, it felt like it was less a Tait and more of like Marvel, I don't want to say putting their will on the film, but it felt like Marvel was just like, again, very similar to WandaVision. Like, yeah, we're Marvel. We got to have sky fight and them flying through the sky and them landing on the ground, and just so anticlimactic of her just breaking the trance. And I don't know. I'm just, the third act is easily the weakest part of the film. And just that kind of forgetting that it's an action movie and throwing it in the last 10 minutes it kind of felt that way for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I totally forgot about that. I've seen the movie 6 times, and I'm like, oh yeah, they did have Taskmaster and Red Guard. I totally forgot about that.
Like a deleted scene. They forgot that they even put it in the movie.
Yeah. Andrea, what do you think about this big falling through the sky fight?
From the sky.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there was a lot happening, which which I kind of like. I felt like it kept the action going. You know, the cuts from like the Red Guardian Taskmaster fight, like, Yelena going after Dreykov, and then Dreykov trying to escape, and then the widows, and like all of that. But I mean, I liked the way they ended. I mean, because I feel like they need to, they needed to have some sort of resolution to the Taskmaster thing. Because I know she freed her, and they were obviously falling from the sky, but like there had to be kind of some like resolution there. And I feel like they did it, in the best way they could. I mean, she saved her, and they had their little family moment, and, and I don't know if we're talking about like this whole end scene or just like the falling,
go for the whole,
Okay.
I did like the we're both upside down when they brought that back around.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that, like, I love that they brought that back, and then the whole, like, the vest, and her giving her the vest, and then and like, I mean, maybe it's just me because I love this character a lot, but she seemed, when she was at the end, and she seemed so kind of like at peace and secure and confident. She's like, no, I got this. You're good. And there was something just about her attitude, and just despite everything she'd been through, I felt like she was finally, I think, like, literally the best way I can think about it is that she was finally at peace. And I think, like, going in, if you think about kind of going forward into Endgame and the way that she was in Endgame, and being able to make that decision about, like, I've done, all these things, or I've, I've done all things in my past, and I've saved people. Like, it makes sense to have that background, that foundation for her character now, having her get to this moment, which we really get in those little family moments at the end, and when she, frees Taskmaster. And my hope is that the Hawkeye show, they're gonna say something about where Yelena has been, because and how she's been doing stuff with widows. I mean, maybe if it's even a line, I'm hoping they're gonna give some background on that. So, because I would love to know, kind of how, if she was successful in getting, more widows out in the world, and especially she only had 3 years to do that before the world ended. So, come on, Yelena.
Leo, what did you think about the whole ending here, the fight, and then, leading up to the credits?
Yeah, it was pretty messy, like everybody was saying. No stakes really. I mean, everybody's gonna survive. We know Yelena. She gets blown off the plane, but we already know she's going to survive, so there was no worry there, really. I like the diving through the sky. I think the CGI in the back kind of just made it a little worse than it was, but I liked it. I liked them diving through, Taskmaster unsheathing the sword. We got Taskmaster's one line in the movie, "Is he gone?" Got that. Yeah. I'm kind of hoping in Hawkeye that Florence Pugh's character, Yelena, I hope she rematerializes kind of like Monica did in WandaVision. I think that would be cool if she got blipped away and then rematerializes at the beginning of this. And it's like, oh, she's been gone for a little while. And that explains a little bit of why she's been gone in this whole equation. Cause it seems like she's just been up and gone. Same with the widows. But yeah, I mean, not the strongest part of the movie, but nothing to make me say, oh, this movie's horrible, or, it didn't knock it down 3 or 4 pegs or anything. It just kind of it kind of reminded us that, oh, we're in a Marvel movie. It's like Elliot was saying, they had to kind of remember, hey, we're in a Marvel movie. We got to do something gigantic, just like we did in Winter Soldier. Got to do that same type of deal. And it maybe wasn't even necessary here. I did like the shot of Nat with the 2 pistols, though, running towards the window, blasting the pistols out and jumping out that window. Thought that was cool.
That was cool. Yeah. And yeah, you guys are right. Exactly. It's very much Marvel. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're Marvel here. I forgot for a second. I tried to make this a nice movie, but
yeah, they're like, take the Jason Bourne cap off and go back to Marvel.
Right. Yeah. So Ren, what did you think about the whole falling through the sky and then the end of this movie?
Falling through the sky was perfectly fine with me. I don't feel as negatively about it as most of you guys, but I also am not going to say best third act in CGI fest we've ever seen in any Marvel movie. No, not even close. But I thought it was perfectly fine. Everything that should have happened in that moment. The last fight with Taskmaster, though. So I'm about to say something that sounds really mean, but one of my professors told this anecdote, this realistic, factual anecdote back in film school. That's whenever you see 2 editors credited in a film, a fun game to play is the game Who Got Fired? Which one got fired? And there's 2 editors in this film, and clearly it's a different person editing this last fight scene. I think we saw one move in full, and that's the head scissors. I think that Vial is an awesome way to defeat Taskmaster and for Nat to get her win and not go against her wishes. But also, where the hell was that Vial? Where did she get that? Or did she take what? Because we didn't see her taking, oh, let me leave this one out for Antonio when we get down there, or if we get down there. I thought it was we needed just a shot. We just need a shot of her taking one out of the collection of vials.
Didn't we see her pick one up off the floor after that fight with the widows? Maybe.
I don't remember. We do.
Yeah, she when she
does.
took the
Oh,
USB
she
of all
does.
the information, she took the valve off the
Okay,
floor too.
She took it loose, too.
then my issue with that in particular is gone. Then thank you. But yeah, the fight scene itself, just yikes! No,
Yeah.
what happened there? What happened there?
I even thought the final flip was kind of a little cheesy when she like flipped
Yeah,
up.
not the best, but it's
Boom.
just the one. Okay, I could see that. I was able to understand what that was.
I thought that was cool. I know it is kind of cheesy the way she like superhero landed on it but it was
Yeah.
cool. I don't know. I liked that part. Chris, did you have anything you want to say about after the falling from the sky? Because we kind of didn't touch on the end of it when you guys were giving your opinions.
Yeah, no, nothing more to add with it. I was cool with how they ended it. You know, the widows go there, and then they're chasing down Natasha, and then we get to see the hair change, which then leads you into Infinity War. So he kind of like explains like where we are like in the timeline. So like I appreciated that kind of call back there to kind of like just bring us back after that roller coaster we just went on.
Elliot, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think again going back to Mason coming in with the Quinjet. I don't know how he obtained a Quinjet, but hey, he's got it.
Still couldn't get the makeup.
Still couldn't get a hug or here's my number. Well, I guess he has her number, but yeah, it was just kind of honestly my biggest thing too with the Nat send off. I really did it doesn't have to be a funeral, but I just really didn't feel the in-game ramifications of Nat. This is potentially, and I think the last time we're going to see Scarlett Johansson in this role, I just didn't feel like the flowers were given to her. I don't feel like she had the perfect send-off, in my opinion, in this moment. I felt it more for Tony. I felt it more for Cap. But Natasha going out, I just still haven't. I didn't feel it from this film. I don't feel like this was the proper send-off for the character, in my opinion. Obviously, the legacy is going to continue with her sister and what she did and all that stuff. But I really do feel like there was a missed opportunity. Really not really, for me, again, emotionally speaking, I just did not feel, if I'm watching it in game again, it's being like, you know what, her film, that sacrifice she made, she made, it just didn't really hit home for me in regards to just the wrapping up of the movie, because again, we get an end credit scene that has her sister taking the baton versus her, really having that emotional moment, for me at least.
Yeah, well, so speaking of that end credit scene, I did feel a little emotion when she's walking up to it and she gives the whistle, that
yeah.
she did, and she puts her face to the grave just like she put her head, it's going to make me cry, to Natasha. You know what I mean? Like, I loved that part. And then, of course, Contessa, she jumps in and she's like, hey, this is your next target, which made me like super mad because I was like, she's going to try to kill Hawkeye? That's what, because I did not think, I never imagined that's where she was going to be in Hawkeye. I kind of figured, which I think very easily early on in Hawkeye.
Episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, there's no way she's the big bad and he's going to be fighting her the whole time. But Chris, what are your takes on that end credit scene? And what do you think in Hawkeye? How long is she going to be the bad guy hunting Clint?
Yeah, I agree with maybe episode 2, the latest. And I totally agree with Elliot on the fact, like, we kind of didn't get the real flowers because they kind of treated the movie like we would see her again, which we know we will not. So I think that they could have, gave her a little bit more, like more of a hey, respect, for your service. The end credit scene, I guess I thought she was going to whistle back. I don't know why.
They did. So I feel like all I'm doing is interjecting with like random stuff that because I'm way too like intense about it. I will read everything for this movie, but they did release an interview where Tait talked about that scene, and I think they asked if like they ever considered that she would whistle back, and she's like, I don't know if we ever did it, but we considered it at one point, but like clearly they didn't do it.
There you go.
So,
so
they did. It was something that they were like, maybe. We're like, no, it's not. Like
a little validation. It gave me like the X-Men vibe with Magneto in the chess piece, and I was like, is it moving? But I don't know how I feel about Dreyfuss's character yet. I was like, is this the end credit scene that I've been waiting a year and a half for, 2 years or however long it's been? Like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm excited. I would have really rather have seen her recruiting a still bad Taskmaster. That would have been amazing to her little group, but obviously we didn't get that. Elliot, what did you think about this end credit scene?
Initially I loved it, and then the more I thought about it, I'm just thinking, well, how the hell did Valentina know how Nat and Clint's last moments were, to even assume that he was responsible for her death, which obviously which we keep saying Hawkeye. I hope that Hawkeye series is about Clint and Kate Bishop and not all of the baggage from this film. And if we're only getting 6 episodes, this should be a pretty interesting show. But yeah, it was cool to see at first, but then the more I started to think about it, I'm starting to think about the whole setup, and even again taken away from the moment of Yelena going to go see her sister's grave. It's kind of, we talked about Thor Ragnarok, it's kind of followed up by a joke of the Midwest and this new mission. It's like, but I want to go back to that emotional beat with her saying about her sister, and Melina coming into the scene, or even Alexei coming to the scene and them paying respects to her, versus this whole Marvel and the setup. Again, I feel like this was more of a setup more so than it was a goodbye to Natasha for the very long time, for the last time, in my opinion. But again, it does get me excited. I don't believe Yelena will be the main villain of Hawkeye. I think they already announced that Echo is going to be the main villain. She even has her own spinoff series coming out next year or something like that. So, but I guess it's just going to open the door to who does Valentina work for? Who, the Power Broker? Are we thinking Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers? Who else is a part of this team? But again, I just wish that end credit scene would have just been more so like an end game and paying homage to Natasha, paying homage to Scarlett Johansson, playing this character for 12 years, having, maybe even flashbacks of all of the moments she had in the movie, versus let's set you up for a TV series. I just personally think, again, it's cool, but just thinking back to it, I just wish it was more of a Natasha send-off versus a setting up a Yelena for the future of the MCU.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I know, because it is sad to think this is most likely it for her. I mean, we'll get What If, but
right.
that doesn't really count.
And again, Loki has shown us there are variant Natashas out
true.
there. So
Very
good. There's scrolls out there too, so we got that.
I know, that's fair too.
This is Marvel. No one's ever dead.
Yeah, exactly. Andrea, what did you think about this end credit scene?
I liked it. I mean, I knew it was gonna set up something with, I knew it was gonna set up something with Yelena, whether or not it was Yelena being recruited, whether I had actually read a spoiler I thought was actually true, because I saw someone repost it, and I did, like, right before I saw the movie, and I kind of X'd out really quickly because it seemed to be like a confirmed spoiler, and it was something that someone had rumored like a while ago, that the end credit scene was gonna be like Hawkeye at her grave, and then like Yelena comes, and so it was kind of like that. It wasn't, but like, so I kind of expected like something like that, at least. Like, I think I expected like maybe they do like a tag of Hawkeye like at her grave, and because I know they were going to do something kind of to honor how, they say they're going to honor how she, how she died. I mean, to me, like, just coming at it from a character standpoint, my kind of love of this character, I like the way they tied it up. They buried her in Ohio. That was like the place she felt like was home, and Yelena knew that, and that was like where, they essentially grew up. She buried her under the, the cherry blossom thing, which is what Renoff said. Her mom was buried there. And I cannot take credit for this. I want to, because I think I'm this smart, but I was reading something on Tumblr that said like, Natasha's mom was buried with like a name, but no, something about like how Natasha was buried with a head, like a name, but no body. And her mom was buried with a body, but no name. And that was like, oh my God, I wish I could take credit for that. I can't, but so I'm not, no one say I'm that smart, or I'm that insightful but that kind of also was like, oh, it's like a kind of a gut punch for me. So I mean, I thought it was, I thought it was a good send up. I mean, it was more than what we got in Endgame. They gave, it's like anything more than just like what we got in Endgame. And as for the post-credits scene, I'm very much looking forward to the Hawkeye show. I'm very much looking forward to Yelena. I'm really excited. I don't think she's going to be the villain either. I think they're setting it, my feelings that they're setting it up like she's going to be the villain. And that's going to be obviously how she's kind of integrated into the show. And then I think over time, she's either going to like realize, that she's wrong, or I mean, who knows? Maybe she'll kind of stay morally gray, like Natasha always was. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see her in the show. I mean, I can't wait to see kind of what that interaction is, and I cannot wait to see her and Tait. I'm like, I really want to ship like Yelena and Tait already, because I'm just like those like the snarky attitude with the two of them, with Haley and Florence. Just like I'm ready for that.
The
Yeah.
cast is incredible. Vera Farmiga.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that
Oh my
show's
God,
gonna
I'm
be
so ready.
awesome.
When does
So
that launch,
good.
by the way?
It's supposed to be end of this year, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, it's supposed to be
December.
fall, but they
Well,
haven't.
yeah.
They keep saying fall, but they haven't announced anything. I think
Announced
now that the
it,
right.
movie's out, because
Yeah.
they can talk about Yelena like being in it, they'll
Mhm.
probably announce it at some point.
I bet you it's
We're getting that
October,
trailer soon.
right after the end of What If, because that's the
Oh,
only
maybe.
month they don't have something coming out.
Probably.
September
yeah.
they got Shang-Chi.
Isn't Captain Marvel before Hawkeye though?
Oh, Miss
Marvel.
Marvel.
Not
Miss
Captain
Marvel,
Miss
You're right. I
Marvel.
think Miss Marvel is first, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it?
Oh,
Is Miss Marvel
Yeah.
this year?
Maybe.
At least
Yeah,
last
but
I
Miss
read
Marvel
or
was
heard
later.
something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've lost track of everything.
I know.
I know,
Everything's
right?
changed.
It's so crazy.
Look at how
I
spoiled
love
we
that,
are
though.
now.
So much
I know,
good
right?
stuff.
Right.
Yeah, 4 shows, 3 movies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Oh,
candy
Figure
now.
stuff out.
Take a break, Marvel. Oh,
I know, right?
Right.
Chill out.
They did take a break, Chris, and it was too
For
long.
2 years.
Yeah.
I did my waiting.
And then Yelena got her dog. I was so excited that she
Yay.
had a dog. Like,
Yeah.
so excited that she had a dog. Leo, what did you think of this end credit?
I liked it. I really liked the end credit. I think that there could have been a little bit of a better send off for Nat, especially like if White when she got in the jet. A legend style reel could have just played in the sense that it was just like boom, all these clips back to back to back of her entire journey through the MCU. That would have been nice, but I do think they made up for it when Yelena was visiting the grave, which, like you were saying, Tessa, is better than what they did in game. So I felt a little bit of closure in that scene. Man, when you hear that nose blow, it's Juliet Louis-Dreyfus. Makes me so excited for the future of what's to come with the MCU. I wonder if she's a Skrull or if it actually is Valentina. But I'm looking forward to the Hawkeye show as well. Look, I don't want Clint to die. A lot of people, for some reason, want Clint to die. Let this man retire, please. He's dodged death twice. Let's not kill him off. Let him go ahead and retire, y'all. It's Clint. So I'm really excited for the Hawkeye show. And I think this is the first case where an MCU movie sets up for a show. I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, because the shows are all new and all that. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
Yeah. I like
This is
that.
supposed to be
want
the
Clint
first
to
film out of
die.
the gate. Yeah.
Do people really want Clint to die? I didn't know that. I don't like
Yeah, I've been
these people.
saying
Everyone-
people like
Yeah,
kill
We had
him
2 in the
off.
chat. We had 2 in the
Everyone
chat today.
hates
We did?
this is-
Yeah,
I'm
they will
glad I
remain.
didn't see
They will
that.
remain nameless.
Good.
I
Better not be you.
I came out
Chris.
of this.
no.
I'm just.
I told my friend because I was seeing it in like the fan communities, and I was like, God damn it! Like this post-credit scene is going to bring up everyone because everyone who either like hates Hawkeye and wants him to die, or is still on the he should have died instead of Nat in Endgame. And I'm like, oh, this is going to bring up all the people who are like, yes, kill him when he wants. Like,
Yeah.
Don't kill him. No. Ren, do you want Clint to die? And then also, what did you think about the end credit scene?
No, I don't want Clint to die. I love Clint. I want Clint as long as possible, or yes, retire after season 1 and then it's all Kate Bishop. I'm fine with that too. I want to say before the post-credit scene, also the movie ends with S.H.I.E.L.D. coming into the wreckage to get Nat.
Yeah.
They're gonna get the wreckage. They're gonna get the Taskmaster helmet. Tony Masters is originally an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. That is all.
Okay. All right. See? All right. You're making me happy again.
The post-credit scene, I loved. I thought it was really filled with emotion. Before the post-credit scene, the Quinjet scene, I'm such a nerd, and when the score is Lorne Balf's and then it turns into the Avengers theme, I'm like, yes, Infinity War! Oh, wait, I've seen Infinity War. I know what happened. Okay, calm down, nerd. Then post-credit scene, I thought it was really good. I love that she has a dog. I love dogs. Then she calls her Fanny Longbottom, the fake name in the first act that is teased. I thought it was really sweet, even though in the movie I don't think Yelena knows that. But still, really sweet for us, the audience. When Val shows up, I like that inclusion. I like that that's an interesting direction to go. I don't think she's going to be the main villain either. I think she's going to be a villain, a factor. And what you guys said, it's only 6 episodes. We can't waste too much time on that. So after 2 episodes, maybe 3 if we're stretching it, we'll take care of Yelena. She'll maybe become an ally and kick some ass on the Hawkeye show too. I still have an issue with Val because I don't know what her deal is. She's putting together a team of mean Avengers, not evil Avengers in this case, because they give a redemption arc to John Walker. Yelena is clearly not evil, so it's a meaner Avengers that she's putting together. But why and who is? What are her actual motivation. It's still so veiled in mystery that I'm like, okay, cool for Yelena, but what about you? Why do I care about you? And why should I find what you're doing interesting? That's my only question still about Val. There's so much unnecessary mystery to her.
I mean, she's definitely she's putting on that Nick Fury hat. You know, she's recruiting all these Avengers, and this was supposed to be phase 1 or phase 4 opening, just very similar to Iron Man and Nick Fury there. So it'll be in. I think Ghost too. Did she recruit Ghost from?
Feels like probably that's a good fit in.
Yeah,
I would think.
Yeah. Oh, this mystery is.
We'll find out eventually.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's been 3 hours. Thank you guys. Before we go. Two questions, and we'll go with Chris first. Number one, do you think Yelena was blipped? Did you think that's why? I mean, she wasn't even in Endgame. Natasha even says something about how she has no family left. I think she probably was blipped. And then also, was this worth the wait? What do you think?
Okay, so was she blipped? I would say I don't know. Like I don't know either way because I don't know if she wasn't, like, does that mean like she'd be out there like connecting with her sister again? It's like I don't know if there's any like reason to believe that. Was she blipped? I would say they should make her blipped. I guess maybe it's an easier story to tell, and and Natasha being kept alive. And then maybe if you're like a sibling, like one of you guys has to go. And then their second question was it worth the wait? It's easy right now to say like, oh, this should have came out back in the day. And if everyone's going to say that, I'm sure Disney wishes it came out earlier, even though it's their fault that it didn't. But I think I would say, yeah, it's worth the wait. It was better than I thought it was. I thought it was a good comeback movie after a pandemic. So like, I thought it was like impressive. I was like, yes, it's late. It's like, okay, I can say that a million times. Everyone can say that, but it's like, it's here now. So like, you can't go back in time. Unless you got the fucking pin particles. So I think the long answer, yes, it was worth the wait.
Awesome. What do you think, Elliot?
It's interesting to think if she was blipped or not, because I would think that based on that conversation she had with Valentina, that she's worked with her in the past. So maybe that's what she's been doing this whole time is, maybe she isn't as good as we thought she was after her last time with her sister. And man, you talk about Hawkeye. What if, she kills Hawkeye's wife or something like that, and we're really like, oh my goodness, who is this Yelena? I remember her being so much different. But I think it would be even more interesting if she was around this whole time versus again just using the scapegoat of she was blipped, Lexi was blipped, and I would like to be they were all gone. Yeah, I
even
would like for them,
every widow.
Yeah, I would like for them to play with that, just to see, because again, she's been doing these missions with Valentina. This from what we're supposed to think that Civil War was 2016 and now this is 2023. So for this, last, 6 years or so, she's been working for whatever this organization might be. Sounds more interesting to me than versus just like not having her do anything and she's been gone for 5 years. So, but as far as your question, was it worth the wait? I personally don't think so. Just from a standpoint of this is the first film out of phase 4. This is, normally phase 4 is it sets the tone for the rest of what we can expect. And I still don't, honestly, after WandaVision, Winter Soldier, and now Loki, and now this, I don't really know where we're going towards, right? We have this magic in WandaVision. We have the grounded nature of Falcon. We have this intergalactic, multiverse situation with Loki. And now we have this grounded film. So I don't know where the direction's going besides passing the baton or evolving a character or giving a character something they should have gotten years ago. Wanda becoming Scarlet Witch, Falcon. We have a new, Captain America, Bucky letting go his resentment. And now we have potentially another Loki and multiple Loki. So only thing I see so far is Marvel phase 4 is we should have did this a long time ago type of phase so far. We should have had magic in the MCU years ago. We should have had Loki be the god of mischief and having all the powers we're seeing. So I think this phase 4 is just kind of oops, we made a mistake 5 years ago and we're kind of making up for those mistakes. So I don't think the film, like I said, again, I don't think it lived up to this being her last time on the screen. It was more of a send-off and introduction to Yelena versus, to me personally, a send-off for Scarlett Johansson, getting her. Again, I personally think Tony got a better send-off, Cap got a better send-off than what we got with Black Widow for me.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you on her send-off. It's sad to think this is it, and this is how we last time we saw her. It just doesn't feel right. Andrea, what do you think? Do you think Yelena was blipped, and do you think this movie, I think I know your answer to this one, was worth the wait?
Well, we were having, because we've been having this Yelena blip conversation since you messaged me. Because at first I was like, oh, well, because I had your thought. She implies she's been working for Valentina for a while. I mean, she doesn't imply how long she's been working, but I asked you yesterday because I can't remember anything anymore about like what the timeline was between when people came back from the blip and when like all of this is supposed to take place, because I'm like, because you said like 6 months in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I'm like, I know this was supposed to come out before, but I'm like, is there like enough time for her to like, she came back from the blip and all of a sudden Valentina would be going around and like rounding up, like, you know, Avenger. I mean, we don't know that whole story, obviously. That's something that they're clearly, you know, going to build into. And so the other part of it is that, which again, like we were having this conversation, that after all this, like you would think, you know, because I said maybe she was, like, because of that, I don't think she was flipped. And you're like, well, why wouldn't she go look for, you know, why wouldn't Nat have talked to her? And I don't know, maybe she wasn't flipped and Nat didn't talk to her for, like, maybe we didn't know that they talked, you know, that wasn't like,
true.
You could go under the headcanon that, like, you know, it wasn't something that was brought up in Endgame because she was, you know, no one else knew about her family and she was talking to her behind the scenes, but maybe Yelena was like, I don't want any, you know, I'm doing my own thing, like the way Carol was, or, you know. So, I mean, I think I'm going to end up going with she wasn't flipped, but I honestly am so torn by it that I don't know if I can give an actual, like, definite answer about what I think. So I hope they do. I hope they explain that in the Hawkeye show. They drop a line about whether or not, because I feel like they're going to have to address the blip in there. Because she's going to have to say how she learned about her death. And it's either going to be like, I came back after 5 years and learned she was gone, or like, you know, I was around and, you know, I saw this happen. So there's that. And then, I do think it was very, very worth the wait. I've been waiting a long time. It was, you know, like I said before, I did the set visit for this 2 years ago, and and there were things that we never put out into the world, but some of those things were, you know, the writer and the co-producer, you know, the co-producer and, you know, the costume department, like talking, and all of them were, the vibe I got from all of them after that visit was that, like, everyone cared so much about the work they were putting into this movie, and everyone was really, really dedicated to making this movie a film that was, like, true to Natasha, like, cared about her. Like, they weren't just making this because, oh, we have to make a solo film. Like, you know, even Scarlett were talking about how, like, we really decided whether or not this was worth making, and I didn't think I could make this, like, however many years ago, which I think is true. So I went into it feeling very confident that this movie was going to give me what I wanted, just based on what I knew for the people behind the scenes that were making it. And it exceeded, like, all of those expectations, just seeing everything come together and obviously not knowing all the details, but it really made me, it really, really made me happy. And I'm, you know, I'm someone who, like, yes, I would have loved this movie, you know, after Winter Soldier, after Civil War. I also think it wouldn't have been as good. I don't think it would have given as much to Natasha's character if we had done it then. I think it really was the perfect, I mean, I wish she wouldn't have died in Endgame, but I also do think, like, this kind of having this foundation of the character laid and then going back to kind of build on the stuff we already know and kind of give greater depth to, like, the way we would watch her if we go back and watch these movies, you know, knowing her backstory now, I think is really great. And I'm very happy with what they did.
Yeah, I do enjoy the movie. It sits in the middle of the MCU for me, like, if I was to rank them. But there's not one Marvel movie that I think is bad, like outright bad anyway.
Same.
So, you know, Leo, what do you think? You think Yelena was blipped, and was it worth the wait?
I don't know. Thor: Dark World kind of sails toward the bottom for me, so this is middle of the bottom.
But is it a bad movie?
Nah, not super duper bad, but I'm like, man, y'all could have left the Lord of the Rings stuff at home. Anyway, back to Black Widow. Do I think Yelena got blipped? So before coming into this conversation, yes. But the more we talk about it, she has the connection with Valentina in the end, saying that she's been working with her for a while. So maybe not, but I think it will be interesting if she was the only one that wasn't blipped. So everybody around her got blipped, but it was just left with her. And maybe that's a bit of an explanation as to why she didn't go to the Avengers front, because I feel like she would have held down Nat. But in a situation like that where everybody else is blipped, maybe that was the opportunity Valentina needed to recruit her into the Thunderbolts. So I don't think she's been blipped. I think she's been around, but they do need to explain why she wasn't on the front lines. Like, what happened? Where was you at? Where was you at? And the rest of the widows too. Where the heck were they at? And then what was the other question? I'm sorry.
Just was it worth the wait?
Was it worth the wait?
Oh, I think coming back into the MCU with the film, it's just nice to be back. Do I think it was worth the wait? Maybe not, because I think that this would have worked better earlier in the MCU. I think right after Civil War, this would have been great. And then if you would have put Shang-Chi here, I probably, and that be a good movie, I probably would be like, yes, absolutely worth the wait. But I don't know, Black Widow just kind of came out, and so maybe not quite worth the wait, but still a fun ride regardless.
Oh, I like that. So Ren, what do you think? You guys are making me, I was like, for sure, like, oh, she totally was blipped, because like Nat talks about it, she has no family left, and now I'm like, oh, well, maybe they had like a falling out or something. I don't know. You guys are making me think she didn't get blipped, but what do you think, Ren?
I'm gonna give a coward's answer. I don't think she was blipped, but if they ever confirm she was, I will not be shocked. I think either way can make sense with whatever information is out there. Was it worth it? Like you, I don't think any movie so far in the MCU is bad. The worst movie, not Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, is still perfectly watchable. It's still fun. The actors are still giving it their all. The action, when the action is there, is fun. This one, like you, is right in the middle. It got better with rewatch for me. Again, the things I enjoyed got enhanced. The issues remained as they were. One of them was bettered because of the potential that it offers, and because there's no definitive "this is it" for that character. So to me, yes, it was worth it. It's always worth it to have a new MCU movie, to have an MCU movie to bring us back to the theaters. That opening, that fanfare at the beginning, best part of any MCU show. Well, not best part, but you know what I mean. It gets that energy pumping. It reminds us that it has been 2 years, like a little over 2 years, a few days over 2 years since we got the last MCU movie. So to me, it's just an incredible feeling, and it truly made it feel like, okay, we're on our way out of this Satan's butthole year that was 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great. And then seeing it on the big screen was fantastic. Like I said, I watched it at home, but seeing it in the theater was like definitely so good. So again, thank you guys for taking over 3 hours to sit here and talk to us. Oh, Zach's here. The best.
Hey!
Oh, Zach.
What's up, Zach? What up, bro?
Zachariah Papaya.
Yeah. Why don't you guys all let everyone know where to find you? Chris, you can go first.
Yeah, for sure. I am Chris Tait. You guys can all find me at Tait's Take. I love doing these kind of panels, especially on Marvel. Every single person on this panel I've worked with in the past, except Andrea. And Andrea, I'm going to be stalking you on your Twitter and your Instagram. So just
good. I'm going to be
block
stalking
me.
you on all your YouTube stuff. So.
Listen, I think New York City people have to stick together. So just keep me close. But Tess, awesome. Thanks for having me on. I thought the movie was great, and I said I agreed to doing this before seeing the movie, and then when I saw it, I was like even more excited to talk about it. And I feel so inadequate. You guys watched it 5-6 times, like I've only seen it once, so I'm like, damn, like I'm just gonna like it even more. So, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. Did you let everyone know where to find you? I don't remember.
They can find me at Tate's Take.
It's all in the description anyway. Everyone's is all in the description. Elliot, why don't you let everybody know and what you got coming up? And I think I'm going to be on your channel this week. Is it this week? It is.
Yeah. No, well, first and foremost, like Chris said, it's Tessa, big fan of yours. The community you build, the energy, the conversations, the people that you bring into your panelists are all great. So just thank you for having me on. And as far as, this week, as you just kind of alluded to, we're going to be talking some low key on Thursday, 7 p.m. p.m. Central Time, and breaking down that finale and seeing if it's King, if it's King Loki, or whatever we get in this finale is going to be a lot of fun. But you guys can find me. All the links are in the description. So YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. You guys can check me out there. But again, Tessa, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, and it's Mephisto, of course.
Or is it Kang Loki?
This dude. This dude right here.
It's the big end, Mephisto,
No
baby.
way.
It's this guy.
Dr. Doom already.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Who
Wine
knows?
glass and all. Wine glass and all.
Son, that's who it is. It's Dracov's son's
Right, it's his son. It's Taskmaster. It's Anthony Masters. Oh, man.
The real Taskmaster.
Right, exactly. Who knows? You can't make theories anymore. That's what I've learned after WandaVision. There's no need for it. Andrea, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I think everything's in the description, but you can find me on Twitter at _A Towers. You can find me on Instagram at _Andrea Towers, because apparently everyone takes my name. So I have to use underscore with every social media app platform. And you can find my writing on Nerdist. You can find my writing on Entertainment Weekly. Right now, those are the two places I'm primarily writing. But I'm always happy to talk Marvel, especially Black Widow, especially Hawkeye, my two faves. With anyone, and kind of flail the way I have been flailing on this for 3 hours. And I'm so grateful to Tessa, who's been, you've been great. And I know we so instantly bonded over so many things, without even thinking about it, but being able to come on here and talk with everyone and kind of get everyone's takes. And so this was such a great panel, and I had such a great time, and I'm so thankful that you invited me on here. So thank you for giving me a platform to share all my flails that usually just go into a social media void.
Well, I'm so glad you were able to come on here, and it's great to connect face to face, because we talk on Twitter.
I know we talk so much, we never actually
which is weird, because I feel like I've talked hi, no big deal. And actually, Andrea and I have something coming up that we really need to talk about, but we were talking about doing a podcast, so everybody stay tuned for that stuff. It's exciting. We will do it. We're not letting it be one of those we talked about it and then we never did it things. Nice. Leo, why don't you let everyone know where to find you?
First of all, thanks for having me on. It is always a pleasure to collaborate with the Avengers of YouTube themselves, guys. It is so good to be collabing with you all again. And Andrea, great to meet you. You can find me on YouTube at Geekly Goods, and then you can find me on Twitter at Leo Rydell. Then on Instagram and TikTok at Leo.Rydell. Guys, lots coming up this week. The finale of Loki. We've got Space Jam 2. What else? Gunpowder Milkshake.
Oh yeah.
Jesus, Fear Street Part 3. I mean, it is just so much content this week. On Tuesday, I'll be doing a Loki finale predictions as well as a spoiler review for Black Widow. So stay tuned for that. And thanks again, Tessa. It's so good to see all these amazing faces. And guys, I can't wait to collab again.
Yes, it was so good to have you. It's so great, because I feel like it's been a while since we've done one of these. So it's nice to do it. And now we got, like you said, it's a stacked week. There's so much I forgot about. I still haven't. I got Gunpowder Milkshake, but I haven't watched it yet. We're gonna watch it tonight, so I'm really excited to check it out.
Can't wait.
And Ren, why don't you let everyone know where to find you?
You can find me at Ren Vieira on Instagram, more of a personal account, but I always let you know what I'm watching, when I'm watching it, and on Letterboxd, Twitter, and YouTube at Ren Geekness. Packed week this week. I got an Annette and Pig review coming out tomorrow. Tuesday seems pretty blank right now, but we still got Fear Street Part 3. We got Shaman King on Fridays, where I cover some anime. The Loki finale, I'm so excited. I've been adoring this show to no end. Space Jam 2, Escape Room 2, lots of great stuff. And last but not least, thank you so much, Tessa, for having me on again with this wonderful group of people, some familiar, some new, and doing what we all love, which is love each other and love the movies, as I always say.
Yes, I know. I love your little thing there. And Ren has two sets. Like sometimes you see him in one country and sometimes in another.
2 more weeks in this set. 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks, and then you're flying.
2
back.
more weeks. Yes. Yeah.
But it's always fun because you never know what you're gonna get when you go.
I'm always changing. You never know what's coming.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys, and thank you to everyone in the chat and everyone who rewatches this later for over 3 hours. This is insane, but this was so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again. So thanks, guys. And everyone's stuff is in the description, so go ahead and check them out because they're all amazing. Bye, guys.